And I didn't see the email. Yeah.
It's okay. You're not sorry. Five. Yeah.
Guys, microphones are on now. Thank you.
Let's go back to this. So you have to say something. I'd like a sense of the board, not the vote, don't be thoughtful, but we should try to give them some feedback.
Okay.
If we really are not going to roll out, then we have to hammer it out.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Oh, no. We're so quiet. Real quiet, almost too quiet.
Yeah.
They say in the movies, every movie's like that.
I know.
We're voting. We're voting. The calm before the storm.
Yeah.
All right, so do we have anything else that like we might want to move up for purposes of courtesy for somebody who's here for
Police and murals.
the murals group? Is there? Is that, before we begin, is anybody here from the murals group?
We're doing murals tonight?
It's on it's something
Yeah.
on the agenda about the mural. I think we're just setting the public hearing, so maybe we're not, but they might come to.
So it's a discussion item, but
All right, no one's here from the public. Is Katie Erdman here? Okay, Katie's not here, then I'll move, we'll do that in regular order. The date on that? The date on that?
Andy, is the budget for the flowers here?
what's that?
The budget for the flowers? Last time.
I have no idea.
All right, we're live. We're live. All right, everybody, please join me in standing for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome. This is the village board meeting for March 27th, 2025. It's a little after 7:30 p.m. I want to let you know if you'd like to engage in public comment, please come up to the front of the page. Is the sheet still there? Please sign your name in the sheet. We're going to give because we'll look at the volume in terms of how we're going to get, how much time we're going to give, because I don't know how many people signed up for it. How many people are signed up? You don't know? No one else has signed up for public comment? All right.
They're coming up now?
Everybody's here for public comment. Please, go sign up for public comment. Yours will go earlier, so, but
I understand it, but public comment for the dispenser, you want that now, or do you want that?
people should sign up to engage in public comment if at some point they wish to speak. It doesn't have to be the public comment section at the beginning of the
Yeah,
meeting,
okay.
but people who want to speak. I mean, why don't we, since people didn't sign up, we'll take it as we get to when we get to the part that people want. I think a lot of people are here to speak about.
In the subject area.
All right, so let me just tell how public comment works.
Public comment there.
The way public comment usually works is that we'll take public comment at the beginning on issues that are not on the agenda for the night. So if someone wants to come and talk about something that's not on our agenda, they can do that up front. It's a courtesy that we give people who want them to give public comment. We later allow public comment as we're discussing issues. If people have public comment on those issues, they can come up and speak to that issue. And then later on, so as we get to, so for example, we have a bunch of resolutions. If someone has something to say to the resolution, they can come up and talk to the resolution. So otherwise you talk to the resolution in public comment now, and we end up talking about it 45 minutes later, you feel like you didn't really have a chance to have an impact on the actual discussion. So we'll give that, and then that's all the way through the meeting. Now, I know a lot of people are here to speak about the cannabis petition, about the stricter cannabis dispensary regulations. That will be toward probably 2/3 of the way through the meeting. We have some things to do up top. They're going to take a little bit of time. The resolutions we have, most of the resolutions we have are not going to take much time and much discussion. We'll move it up ahead of the departmental reports, to try to give people an opportunity not to be staying too late here, for that one issue. But we have two presentations, one on the CBGB grant process, and then we have one on 80 South Broadway that we're taking up top. Then we'll get through the resolutions, and then we'll get to the people that want to speak on the cannabis issue. All right, just a couple of things I wanted to highlight. I want to congratulate a couple of businesses that have opened in the past week or so in the village. I was just today up at Bright Path Childcare, just opened up a facility up on Route 9W at the very edge of Nyack, just barely within the Nyack confines, up on Route 9W and Highland Avenue. Congratulations to them. They had their whole regional group there. They do childcare. Also last week, Chris Gaylord and the Nyack, Dr. Chris Gaylord and the Nyack Neighborhood Veterinary Practice opened right on Main Street. It's a small animal practice, but it's very convenient right here in the village. I consider that a pretty good success story for the village because we did not have regulations that allowed for a veterinary practice in the village. He came to us to ask if we could adapt the regulations to allow for it, which we did. And we worked with him on making sure that we had protections in place. There'll be no boarding of any animals overnight and things like that, which we knew we wouldn't really want in an area that is partly residential. Also, congratulations to opening for Cantina Kita, which opened last week, a restaurant owned by the owners of Cantina and the chef from Cantina that opened up right next to DR Pillow's building over at the corner of Franklin and Main. Everybody's really happy about that. That joins some recent restaurant openings, Sundays and Olar Mew. We've had some nice restaurants be added to the range of offerings here in the Nyack. So congratulations to all of them. A couple things to keep in mind. This Saturday, 1 to 4 p.m. is the last day you can see the Black History Month portraits. That's been an exhibition that the Nyack Historical Society has been running since the early February, probably late January. It's the last weekend for it. If you've not seen it, you might want to pop in. These are exhibits that you can generally, you're not going to have to vote your whole afternoon for, but it's good to show support for the subject as well as for the Historical Society itself. Also, this Sunday, the Nyack International Film Festival begins this Sunday at Hotel Nyack, and that's always a big event. If you were all interested in film, it's a really good cause support, and part of the funding for it came from the village's tourism grant fund that we allot twice a year. Also, next Friday, Rockland Pride is launching its first night market, which they'll be doing at the Pride Center over on Jackson and Franklin. And I'm excited about that. And it's going to be kind of a take on a kind of a market of different types of things and whatnot, but it's going to be at the Pride Center. It's on the first Friday. First Friday is also when, of course, the Nyack Art Collective does its exhibition of art right in the building next door as the adjunct building to the adjunct room that they have next to Burger Loft. And then also on April 10th, Coheed and Cambria, a band that has local roots, is working with the Chamber of Commerce for a big event on April 10th, and they're going to be getting apparently the key to the village, which the only problem is we do not actually technically have a physical key to the village, but we're working on it. So we're honored to be able to present them with something to recognize the work that they've done, as well as the work that they did a recent video. If you haven't seen their recent video, go look it up. It takes place all throughout Nyack. It's a nice tribute to the village. Does anybody from the board would like to address anything?
Is there something going on at the Angel, the church in Nyack on the 29th?
Oh, on
The market.
That's right. I always forget something. So thank you. Yeah, on the 29th at the Angel of Nyack, which is the First Reformed Church.
Yeah.
The First Reformed Church building over by Bird and Broadway, across from Key Bank.
Yep.
They're having a makers market run by Louise Newsom. Our friend Louise Newsom is also doing some other things with the village over the next few months. So that'll be a nice event as well. Thank you for reminding me about that.
No
So if anybody make a comment, do you want to explain? You said you want to
I have
explain.
on glasses because I forgot to bring my glasses. I had cataract surgery and I wanted to be here, so that's why I'm behind these glasses.
Well, it's good to have you back. I'm glad you're feeling well enough to come to the meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd actually like to close the meeting today in honor of Alexa White. She was an NIAC alumni who passed away earlier, a few days ago. She lost her life in a car accident, so, I know there's a lot of, NIAC High School alumni from class of 07, 08, and so on, who are mourning her loss. So I'd like to close the meeting in her honor this evening.
All right, we'll do that.
Thank
Joe?
Yeah, last week I attended the monthly meeting of the NIAC Water Board Commissioners. And, one of the issues that people attended for was the, issues with regard to the water quality that we've recently experienced. And, there were a lot of people from the public there and, very respectful meeting. And the water board, the members answered a lot of those questions straightforward and honestly. And I think that it was a good thing to have. The water board itself, the commissioners, let me put it this way, they're very professional, very measured, and I think they know what they're doing.
All right, thank you for that. All right, we have, as I mentioned before, we are going to be getting a presentation on 80 South Broadway. We're also doing a public hearing on the community block grant. Those are going to be up top. However, if you've been to our meetings before, you know that we sometimes take some things out of order, issues that are quick and involve people that are here that are usually toward the end of the agenda, but we don't make people wait through, particularly what will be a relatively long meeting tonight. So I'm going to move some items up earlier to discuss them. And the first one's 11.1. Michael DeRobertis is here to talk about doing a flower market on Sundays or Saturdays in Easter Square. Why don't you come up, if both of you want to come up as well. And that's Kelly's with you, who's also been part of this. So tell us about this.
Hello,
Hello.
my name is Michael. So what we're proposing is a Saturday flower market, an open air market, similar to a farmer's market. There'll be myself. I work at a Bluefield farm in Bluffville, and I'm a florist and a grower, along with a few other local flower growers, along with Cottage Creek, who Jennifer, the owner, used to have a store in Nyack, and she grows native plants. Moon Yard Flowers, Kristen's in Valley Cottage, along with Greenbush Gardens and Treesong Farm, who sell seedlings. So they'll be there in the beginning of the market. Ryan from Foliage and Flora, who sells houseplants, along with a couple ceramicists. And we also have Georgiana Wells, who does container gardens. She's also a gardener. And Nydia, who is Flora White Yoruba, who is an herbal apothecary. So we're looking to do it from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on every second and fourth Saturday.
Have you looked through the dates to see if there are conflicts with anything else in terms of, you know, a Saturday here or there might be some sort of event, a parade or something like that? Have you looked through the second, fourth? I mean, because you probably should get to Andy the dates, the actual dates. Don't just say the second and fourth, like here's this date, this date,
I
this
have a
date, this date, this
calendar,
date.
I can send it.
Okay, and send the dates over because we got to check them against any conflicts that we might have.
Yeah.
You're not gonna have a conflict with street fairs because those are on Sunday.
Right.
We do have some parades. A lot of the parades are on Sunday. Some of the events are on Saturday. And we just want to make sure that we're not gonna end up with a conflict.
Sure.
Any thoughts on this? Yeah, anybody else to join in?
I like it. It's a good idea.
I think it is, but as you said, we have to make sure the dates are available. That's really important because there's other events and things that happen and that's where.
Looking at the plan, you seem to have, how many stalls?
Right now we have, 9,
Nine.
including, we would have, you know, a Nyack Flower Market, 10.
Actually,
So 10,
I have 11.
okay.
11, yeah, that's, it seems to be, a lot of density there for, Pennsylvania Square Park.
We did walk and measure out, the square.
Yeah.
And, you know, each tent is about 10 by 10, and there's a little diagram. And it's not the exact measurements, but.
Well, your application talks about 9 vendors that you have so far, but
Yeah.
there are 12 spots that you've assigned on the,
Right.
so you're looking for more vendors between now and when you would have the first one?
We have some like,
Possible.
possible rotating vendors. There was a fellow from the Bronx who does all edible plants. I was interested in getting in to do a couple. He does lots of like figs and berries and. And then some of these people won't be doing every single market, like Greenbush Gardens and Treestone Farm are doing about
Okay.
3 or 4.
I think Joe's point is to make sure you don't overstuff it.
Yeah.
And make it so that, you know, I think that's in your interest as well. You don't want people not being able to walk
Right.
around. You want to have an appeal to this. Kelly Colquitt's involved in this as well, who runs the editor. And we've talked about it before, about the importance of getting things like this into Easter Square on a regular basis, which I think would be a nice elevation of the square with, and providing a reason for people coming to town. Flowers
Right.
are,
Yeah.
it's also, and we've talked to you, I don't know if to talk about it now, but we've talked about, we do have one florist in town that
I
Ashley-
spoke with her
Okay.
today.
about if they want to be involved, because we don't like to bring in outside vendors that are compete with the local businesses, but for the most part, we just have the one florist, so there's not really a.
Yeah, I spoke with her today. and
Okay.
She said she wasn't interested.
I'll talk to her as well, because I don't want her to feel left
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
What's the vendor fee? What's the,
It's, the vendor fee is $50
$50 per stall?
per stall, yeah.
The question, how long will this go? So is this seasonal or
From
is it like
April to October.
April to October? Okay, okay.
When I talked to them about this, there is technically a vendor fee, that the village charges for, that's supposed to charge for vendors. We have never charged it, or at least as far as I know, we have never charged it for the farmer's market. So we're treating this one like that one in terms of charging them a fee. So certainly as they get their legs underneath them and they get started up, we're gonna waive that. And we want to see you succeed, and we'd love to, if you get up and running and then it starts to become very successful, then maybe we can start, the vendors could pay. It's not a huge amount of money for a daily or a yearly pass. Anybody have any other questions? Everybody good? Is everybody okay with this?
Yeah, just one, have you touched base with like Bill Batson from the farmer's
I
market?
have,
Oh, okay,
yes.
cause I know he
His-
always has
His
some.
blessing.
Oh, okay, no, more like, cause I know if you mentioned that he's got some rotating.
Yeah,
who may
yeah, we
also-
have some overlap and, you
Okay.
know,
Okay, that's all.
I used to work at the night.
All right, if there's any other questions, sense of the board, we should have a resolution for the next meeting to approve this. Let's get the dates on that resolution. So, you want to start doing this when? April what?
I'm hoping for April 12th.
Yeah.
All right, so let's,
We'll have it on for the 10th and he can assume he's.
you can assume he's got it. So start marketing it.
Okay,
We're gonna approve in the
great.
next
That was
meeting.
my-
Just get us the dates, yeah. So
Okay.
we'll do a formal
Yeah,
approval on the
Maybe
10th
I'll send you. over
before you get up there, but you can start
Send me
marketing.
your certificate of insurance, okay?
I think, yeah.
All right, thank you for doing this, and thank you,
Yeah.
Kelly, for doing it as well. I
Yeah.
think it's a nice thing for the village. It'll be a nice, it'll be a very pretty thing, on Saturdays in the square. All right, thank you. Next
you.
up, I just wanted to bring out for 11.3 Louise Parker, former deputy mayor, who wants to just get clearance for a date for the back to school barbecue hosted by the Nyack NAACP on August 16th, 2025. Is that basically it? That's correct?
Yes, that and just to see basically perimeters for the barbecue, but then I also want to get clarification just to make sure that I have everything set for the parade, June 7th as well.
I think we talked about that a long time ago, so.
We did, but I just want to make sure because I kind of heard that something was going on in the park. And I just want to make sure that we have access to
June seventh?
both top and bottom. June 7th is the date with the rain date of June 14th. Yeah, I did months ago.
Friday is the next day.
So June 7th, I've got you down for the African American Day Parade,
Right,
which is a big deal for the village, and we'll do a lot of coordinating around that.
yes.
I don't know if there's anything. I mean,
No, no,
if there are
no.
any details,
No one
we'll
had
talk about it,
mentioned
but-
something they had heard that work was going to be going on
Yeah.
in the park.
Oh,
We
oh.
usually line
So
up
I
on
wanted
the
to make
lawn.
sure because we line up top, but then the festival events are down bottom. And the last time that we spoke, Andy, the only thing that you said was that people would not be able to drive, the vendors wouldn't be able to drive on the
On the
grass
grass, right.
to set up. They would
Right.
have to, park and then carry the track. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can definitely, let's talk about the details offline and we'll go over any needs you have.
I mean, as long as, that's still.
That date's your date, and we shouldn't be doing any work by then that would require
No, I don't think so.
closing off any part of the park.
Okay,
We have a couple of weeks now where the park's gonna be, the lawn's gonna be closed because it's a very tender right now, so we're closing it off.
The upper.
I was at the upper one, okay, the upper
Yeah,
one.
no, there's no planned activities or events that would conflict with the African American Day Parade and the sort of vendor fair market educational event in the park. Absolutely.
okay. And now back to back to school barbecue. We
That's
still want
August
to
16th.
use the area on DQ Avenue,
Same as last year.
same as last year,
Yeah.
between Franklin Street down to Head Start and, using the senior center
Yep.
just for a setup and that
Gotcha.
thing. And
What
everyone's welcome to come out. and
what
do
time is the
this.
event?
The barbecue?
Yeah.
Starts at noon.
Yeah.
Oh, it's early this year.
Well, start set up and
Yeah.
everything, we'll get going good by like 1.
No, I meant like early in the month.
August 6th,
Yeah, because
August
we
6th.
don't wanna go too far.
Yeah.
That's fair.
All right,
August 16th.
we don't have a resolution for tonight's meeting. We can get it for next time. Sense of the board is, we don't have to, we've already approved the African American Day Parade, so that's all done. This is just for the barbecue. Everybody good with it?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll have that on the agenda for next week, and you got your date.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Is there, by the way, is there a rain day for that? Or you do
Rain-
rain or
no.
shine? Rain or shine?
Rain or
for
shine. Rain or shine.
it?
If it rains, then all we'll do is we'll just hand out like book bags to everyone. and-
Louise, what's on the menu?
You gotta come to find out.
All right, I just want to ask, is Katie Erdman here? Did she come in since I asked last time? She's here for just a block party, and we'll just get that done quick. Nope, all right, we'll do it in the regular order later. All right, first thing, let's get Mr. Pilla, and if you want to come talk about 80 South Broadway, the application. And we have a number of papers in front of us about the application as
Yeah,
well.
we did.
Okay,
And you have somebody with you. Why don't you introduce the colleague?
Sarah Murray from my office. And we're talking about 80 South Broadway.
Use the mic.
80 South Broadway. All right. We're gonna let Sarah just introduce the project.
Good evening. So here tonight to present the application for 80 South Broadway. We were previously seen in front of the Architectural Review Board, as well as the Planning Board, which was the most recent. During the most recent Planning Board at the beginning of the month, we received a positive recommendation to come in front of the Village Board tonight for the application for a special permit for the 4th floor. So I'll just give a little bit of a brief synopsis in terms of what the proposal is. So obviously right now this property is currently Murray's Deli and gas station. The application is for the demolition of that existing structure and the construction of a new 4-story mixed building. There's commercial retail space in the ground floor, 3 stories of multifamily residential units above, and parking at the cellar level. The proposal includes a setback of the building believe it's roughly 35 feet or so from the property line, which provides space for ground level parking, as well as planting beds in a small plaza. The residential portion of the building is a mixture of studios, 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom units. The majority of which are market rate units, but there are a couple of affordable units that are proposed. So tonight we're here specifically for the special permit for the construction of the 4th floor level. This is requested in exchange for providing public benefit features. So there's 3 features that are proposed. The first of which is the removal of existing features which detract from the area, which is, generally speaking, just the removal of the existing gas station, which I think most people would agree is not the most aesthetically appealing. In addition, we would also be installing underground utility lines for the new services to the structure. This second feature is the enhanced parking and traffic mitigation. So we're reducing the size of the existing curb cuts, which allows for a couple of additional on-street parking spaces to be created. And then the third item is landscaping design and just general public improvements. So there are a number of landscaping beds that are going to be introduced as part of the project, including a bed that runs along the sidewalk with space for a couple of benches. In addition, there's also a small kind of plaza area with seating and an integrated water feature. We believe that the proposal aligns with the Village of Nyack's comprehensive plan in providing increased allowing increased density, which makes this a little bit more attractive for developers. That's generally the issue that's in front of the board tonight. Other than this item, the building is as of right. There are a couple of density bonuses that we're seeking from the planning board, and that's an ongoing review. But essentially those are being requested in exchange for providing the affordable workforce units, as well as introducing a green roof for the building at the main roof level.
What do you mean by a green roof on the building?
So the main roof is a combination of a terrace space for the tenants, and then there's a green roof. So there's the specific type of product we're using. It comes as these individual kind of grid panels that get added together. They have a small amount of soil, and it would most likely be, grasses and things that are low maintenance to keep up there. That's roughly 50% of the area of the roof.
Thank you.
I have a question. What's the number of affordable housing units that you are proposing?
Currently it's
What's the total number of units?
2% of the units,
Right.
so I believe it's 2 units.
2 units. Now, when you apply for a special permit, you have to provide more than the mandatory 10%.
Specifically related to the 4th floor?
What's that?
You're specifically
You're applying
related,
for a special permit
For
for
the
the
4th
4th floor,
correct.
right? And one of the quid pro quos to applying for a special permit is that you have to provide more than the requisite 10% of affordable housing.
Okay,
Okay, so you say you have 2 affordable housing units?
yeah,
So-
so 10% would have been 1.4 units, so we're rounding up to.
You're only
Well-
14 units? I thought there were 18 units in the building. Your point's, I
Yes,
think, the
I'm
same.
sorry.
That's 18 units in the
Yeah.
building.
Yeah,
18,
you're
so
correct, I'm
that's
sorry,
not-
I'm referring to the density bonus, 1.4 units.
Okay,
Sorry.
so for the minimum, you have to round that up to that'll become 2 units. Plus you have to give additional units to, as a condition for granting the special permit.
Joe, I'm just gonna correct that the way the law reads is that it has to be more than 10%. And they would be providing about 12 or 13%, which is technically more than 10. I do agree with you. I would like to see another affordable unit here. But just to clarify, I don't think it's fair for us to use one part of the statute to round up to say, okay, we're gonna round up of the 1.8 to 2 and now say that you have to add another 1 on top of that.
Well, that was in the original, regional code, if there's around, to get to for the 10%, there is a roundup requirement. So that should not be glommed or added to the additional 10%. In other words, you do one at first, so it's 18 units, 1.8, rounded up to 2, plus an additional a number of units. So it'll be, let's say, 1 unit that will give you that.
So let's tackle that when we get to, because then we have other issues that we have to address before we get to the affordables.
Okay.
The posture of this, so that, and correct me, Dennis, if I misstate this, so I'm gonna ask you to be my check on this, and Dominic, you can do the same thing if I misstate this, is that you're applying for a special permit, really, you're coming to us really just about the 4th floor. The setback and everything like that, you're working out with the building department. In order to get the 4th floor, you do need the special permit, which can only be granted by the Board of Trustees. The reason it's in front of us now is the fact that you've gotten to the point, I believe, with the building department that you've pretty much got the building. At what stage are you with the building department on it? Because I know they kicked it to us to discuss this. I'm sorry, not the planning board,
So
excuse me,
at the planning board voted 4-1.
about the special permit. They
about
recommended
special
it.
permit to recommend it to this board. So that's what we're in front of you.
Okay, where's the rest of the building in terms of the approval process?
Well, there's a lot to be done. There's a lot of comments that have to be answered. There's a drainage solution that has to be done. So there's a lot of work that has to be done.
And the reason they're coming to us is that essentially what has to be decided is if there's a lot of work that still has to be done if it's going to be a 4-story building. And so you're asking us to give you some impression of whether we would be amenable to the 4th story, because if we're going to tell you that we're really not, then you're not going to go put all that work in. You're going to then start a new project to do it as a 3-story building.
Yeah, essentially, that's correct.
And so the question before us is, what are our feelings? We don't have to get into really the rest of the building if there's any other issues with the building, because those will be addressed by the planning board. But in terms of, do we have a specific problem with there being a 4th floor? Now, the trade-off on the 4th floor is that in order to get the 4th floor, they had to, for want of a better term, jump through certain hoops. And you've described some of the things you had to do in terms of plantings, in terms of the green roof, in terms of you didn't mention it, but the underground wires that you had to put in. What else?
Sarah did mention.
Oh, she did mention, I'm sorry, forgive me, I missed
There's
that.
about 3 poles that have to be, and all the lines will be below grade, which is an expense to the applicant, obviously.
And the argument that I know you've made about the 4th floor is that from the pavilion side, it looks like 3-story building because of the grade, that you're on a hill, essentially a small hill.
Yeah.
And then from the street side, because of the recessed nature of the 4th floor, if you're on the sidewalk, you look up, you don't really see the 4th floor because the way your angle is, you just see the top of the building.
Yeah,
Of the setback of the.
That's done intentionally, so we don't have a full view of the 4th floor.
So to minimize kind of the presentation of it as being coming across a particularly tall building. So that's kind of where we stand with that right now. And I'm just clarifying it only because we don't need to get into any other part of the building other than, for our purposes, our openness to the 4th floor, because if we're not open to it, then they're gonna start a different building project. If we are open to it, they'll go back and do the work and continue this project. Is that a fair?
Essentially, that's correct.
Okay, all right. All right, I'll.
I have
Anybody
a
wants to join?
question. So the 4th floor, the reason you want to add that, is that for more apartment, more units, more green space? What's the 4th floor?
So regardless of whether we were to do a 3-story or 4-story option, the number of units, the size of the building would be the same.
Okay,
Ultimately, by having the 4th story, we're able to provide a much more attractive layout that gives more light and air to all the units. It allows us to set this back. So just generally, based on the size of the lot, it's a much more attractive way of setting up the units, laying them out, than if we were to go to the 3-story option. Becomes a very deep building. So it just doesn't lend itself to the same type of interior environment that we're trying to achieve with the 4-story option, if that makes sense.
okay. Yeah.
They're living
but-
spaces, essentially.
Yeah. Okay.
Anybody else wanted to ask questions, comments?
Well, yeah, I'll make a couple of comments. normally, when somebody comes for a special permit, there's a public hearing, you have, it's publicized, people can, pro and con can come and to, make their comments. And then afterwards, the village board, we make a decision based upon the public hearing. So when this is, outside of the regular order, what we're doing right now. And I told Joe in the last meeting also, I said, I objected to it. I don't think this is the right thing to do, but I understand what you're looking for. I understand you're looking, no, I'm not finished. I understand what you're looking for. Now, for many years, I've railed against the problem with maintaining the historic character of the village. Upper Main, all sorts of buildings went up and I was opposed to it. But okay, that's like not really here nor there. The problem is that South Broadway, where you want to construct put a building up, and I'm not going to comment on whether it's recessed or not, that's not under consideration now. But all of the buildings, historic in nature, are 3 stories. So you're going to be you want to put up a 4-story, and that's going to be completely out of character with that area of South Broadway. Just want to let you know that's the way I feel. So if push comes to shove, and if you want a sense of the board, whether or not we're going to agree or not to agree, if push comes to shove, I'm going to say no.
So you have 4th floor buildings on Broadway, right adjacent.
I'm talking about on between Hudson and Cedar.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, they're only 3-story buildings.
No, there's several buildings that have a setback above that.
I'm not talking about.
He's talking about the 1 block, Hudson to.
The 1 block.
Hudson to the gas station.
Hudson to the gas stations, 1 block, which that's akin to a developer coming and saying, well, on Main Street, we have the row of buildings and apartments from Park to Bridge, historic, right? But
Historic or traditional?
across the street, there are taller buildings. So we say, well, there are taller buildings here, so why not have a taller building here? I want to preserve the historic nature of that block.
Historic or traditional?
Traditional.
Okay, so you
The
can have.
look of
Right,
the feel.
What you are saying is you want something exactly homogeneous, like these traditional buildings that are unreinforced masonry buildings that are not functioning as well as modern building is, right? These living spaces are far superior to living spaces you will have in a 3-story version, even modern.
I'm not looking at the living spaces.
But
I'm
that's
looking
what's
at-
that's what's very important.
I'm looking at the actual building in comparison to the
Right.
other buildings on the block.
Okay, and also you have, with this plan, as you're driving down Broadway, it opens up. You have light and air onto Broadway. If you put a 3-story building all the way up to the property line, you have that wall again, which is claustrophobic on a narrow street.
I'm not talking about it. We're not
What do you-
rendering an opinion on the setback of the building.
But you
We're just
are,
rendering an opinion on the 4th floor.
I know, but the 4th floor goes in hand with where the building is.
Maybe you have to bring in the building up a little bit. That's fine, but I don't want a 4-story in that area of Broadway, period.
All right.
That's it.
Okay,
That's my opinion.
okay.
I'm gonna respectfully disagree with Joe about this, and I emphasize respectfully because I know where he's coming from and I respect where he's coming from. I do agree, yes, from Hudson to the gas station, it's a row, 1 block of 3-story townhome buildings. But once you get past Hudson, if you walk with me mentally, there's the post office, which is it's not fitting with that 3-story structure. Then you go past the post office and there's Couch Court, which is an old Victorian. You go past that, there's a church, which is now the Nyack Center. You go past that, it's a 7-story residential building with a setback. You go past that, there's another church, which does have a setback. If you go across the street, you've got Art Cafe, which has a setback. You've got another church, which has a slight setback. You've got the Wright Brothers building, which is a Victorian with a setback and that's why I disagree with Joe about this, that I feel as if it's not out of keeping with the rest of the community, particularly because what it's replacing is a gas station that already has a setback. It's already built into that, like that view corridor is already established. And from my perspective, I'd rather see a nice, and we don't get the amenities. They can build 3 stories of right, but then they don't have to give any public space. They don't have to give any green space. They don't have to do anything that they're doing with this particular version of it that they've proposed to us. And I'd rather have a nice building that's going to be a nice place to live rather than, trying to maintain to an architectural structure that's 150 years old, which isn't, if they were tearing down a 3-story building, if they were tearing down a traditional Victorian to do this, I might feel differently about it, but it's a gas station that they are replacing. And so for me, what the building that's being proposed is a step up. I think that I like the fact that they're dropping the power lines underground. That's very expensive to do. We have so many power lines that are visible. I would love to remove them. It would be millions and millions of dollars to remove them on any block in the village that we would try to do it in. That's why it's not done. Whoever asks about, hey, why do we have all these, as you walk down Broadway Main, there's all these wires, because they are millions of dollars to bury them. So I think that's a nice thing. And I don't mind the height because of the way it, you don't see it from the pavilion side and you don't really see it from the street side. So it's not as some of these buildings that have been built up to be very tall that are right up on the street, like the building that people have had issues with on Midland and Maine, which is a very tall building that's built right up to the street with no setback. So my general inclination would be to say yes to this. I know, Joe, in terms of the structure, in terms of the process point that you made, I would say that at a very fundamental level, when the time comes, there will be that public hearing, there will be that vote. What he's asking for now is for us to give a sense so that if it's a lost cause, he doesn't want to have to go through all that trouble. And just start.
Will there be public comment allowed?
Yeah, we're gonna allow public comments. I know you're here for that. I'm gonna, as soon as we finish I want to get a little bit of board talk with the applicant. And then I'll bring up you or anybody else that wants to opine about this.
Important item, a 3-story building would consume the entire lot. Because that's as a right, we can build a 3-story building. And in order to get the square footage that we're allowed, the building would take up the entire lot. So that's as a right, we wouldn't even have to be here in front of this board. We're taking advantage of this special permit that is in the zoning code, that is part of the property rights, to bring it in front of you. So if it's not something you want to entertain, that's fine. But this is a better building, this is a better thought out building, better design, better living spaces for a multitude of reasons. And quite frankly, I think it looks a lot better and it opens up to the residential portion of Broadway. So it fits perfectly. However, you can disagree with me and that's fine. And you can say you don't want this building and that's fine too. I'll go back to my client and say, we don't have a 4th-story option. Quite frankly, this is putting the owner's neck on a chopping block being in front of you. Because as Mayor Rand mentioned, I have to go back and say, yeah, it looks favorable. But as Dennis has reminded me many times, I can't get a binding approval from this board until we get approval from the planning board and getting a negative declaration in secret. And that means an awful lot of work. And the client is not going to go down that road in the hopes that this board feels like they're going to approve it. Right? So I need to know tonight, so I can go back and then discuss it with my client, what we're going to do.
Yeah, I said at this point in time, my inclination is no.
Well,
Okay, well-
at this point in time, I'm gonna need, right, I need more than,
Well, let's, I want to give an opportunity. So let's give an opportunity. If anybody wants to, if you want to sort of give some impression now, we also do have somebody from Keith Taylor had sent us a letter. I think his attorney that wrote the letter is here and would like to speak about this as well. Do you want to hear from them first before you talk? Okay, why don't you take a seat for a moment? I'll bring up the gentleman, the attorney can address this as well.
Joe, I know this is usually different than public comment. Did you want to set any time limit at all
I'll allow it to, the attorney, I'll give him some leeway. on this. All right, well, we let the applicant go, so we will have if there's any public comments on this who's not involved in the project itself, then we'll give
That's what I meant.
we'll put a 1 minute timer on them, but I won't do that for the attorney.
I'll try to be very brief. I know you have a long agenda, and I know some of our concerns have already been expressed by trustee Carlin. Well, I'll try to get right to the point, if
Okay.
that's okay. So as you know, I represent David McCartney, Ferrick Nugent McCartney. My office is happens to be right down, across the street, across Cedar from Mr. Taylor. So everyone here is familiar with, obviously Hanneman's Funeral Home. They're familiar with the existing site. The DMU1 zone, let's be clear, it has a maximum of 3 stories per code. That's the code, okay? It's there, and the code does allow redevelopment. Okay, it does, but as trustee Carlin correctly pointed out, the primary driving factor is whether that redevelopment will preserve the historic character, scale, and uses, right? And the code allows 4 stories only as a special exception. And it's really a special exception because it puts it in the hands of this board. It doesn't let the planning board decide it. It doesn't send it to the zoning board, which traditionally would be the board that would give exceptions to laws and rules that are on the books. But it says, this is so important, we're going to give it to the village board. Okay, so you are the gatekeepers of whether this can be a 4-story or a 3-story. And there's only exceptional circumstances in which that's allowed, right? The code was pretty thoughtful about it. And what it says in substance is that in order to get the 4-story, the substantial benefit that the developer is looking for to get a 4th story instead of 3. And let's be clear, it's not just 4 stories because there's mechanicals, there's elevators. It's really 4.5, if not 5, because and particularly considering the massing. But in order to get that benefit, they have to provide a substantial public benefit. And the only things that I hear them saying is that they're going to do something with the curb cut to create to enable more on-site, on-street parking. They're going to put the utilities underground, which they're going to do whether you have a 4-story or 3rd story, let's face it, right? And the landscaping design, they're going to put a couple benches in the parking lot in the front yard. And in exchange for that, they want a 4th story. And to the extent that they're telling you that the benefit they're giving you is a green roof, that's not true. They're going to give you a green roof because it gives them a density bonus. It lets them build more units. That's why they're putting a green roof on. They're going to put a green roof on whether it's 3 stories or 4 stories. So that has nothing to do at all with what they're proposing here for the 4th story. And as trustee Carlin pointed out, the crux of our objection is that first of all, those benefits don't even come close to outweighing the detriment that this is going to cause. And it's out of character. It truly is out of character. And if you're not sure about it, I went through some, sorry, head keeps falling. I went through some of the renderings, and if I may approach, I'll hand out each 1 page to each of them. You can pass them down the way. This is the bird's eye view that the applicant has given of the project, right?
Yeah.
Here, what, can I hand these to you?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So
These are all the same, right?
yeah, they're all the same. Yeah. And I'm sure they're in the documents that you've seen, they're in the packet, but that one sort of tells the whole story in terms of what it's going to do to the character of that neighborhood down on South Broadway. And quite specifically in regard to the neighboring properties. If you look at that monstrosity compared to Hanneman's Funeral Home next door, it's in the realm of absurd. It doesn't fit in at all. It's overlooking it, it's overshadowing it. It doesn't remotely fit in. And you don't have to take my advocacy for it. All you have to do is think about and read your own planner's memo and your own engineer's memo. Village engineer wrote a pretty scathing memorandum, and including starting back in January, where Eve Mancuso said, "This is out of character for the development pattern along South Broadway." No mincing words there. Okay, that's your engineer. That's not ours.
That's the March 26th memo?
No, that sentence is seen in her January 27th memo.
Okay.
Okay, paragraph 5. Oh, actually, it's not paragraph, it's in the first full paragraph under
Well,
paragraph.
all we have in front of us right now is the fourth story, so we're not gonna get into, if there are other issues with the building that have to be addressed later on. But I appreciate you bringing that up. I'm looking at this picture that you're giving me, and I understand what you're trying to say with it. My only question is, and we don't have a drawing of what a three-story building that went all the way up to basically the same level as the other three-story buildings on the block would go to. Essentially, what it would mean.
There actually is, it was in one of the planning.
All right, well,
but we don't have it
we don't
here.
have it here.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this, this picture, and if you take the red part of the building and you move it up so that it's aligned with the building next door, I'm just surprised that you're that Mr. Taylor is as enthusiastic as he is about that, because that building, it would seem to me, it would essentially cover up the entire viewpoint that he would have from his beautiful building looking north, and it would block out his front yard. Essentially, the front yard would now be up against a wall.
Well, Mr. Taylor is not opposed to redeveloping the site. What he's opposed to is 4 stories overlooking and dwarfing, his building. And that's what this one is doing right now. The proposal, is imposing. And this is right on Broadway. And again, if you look at the pavilion, you step back to the pavilion. Again, I was not involved in that project. Okay, but my understanding is that the village, including the village planning board, and I'm not sure when the law came into effect, allowing a 4th story. But Pavilion, for many, many years was looking for substantially larger buildings and substantially more development. But they were told, and the village stuck to its guns and kept them at 3 stories, and they're at that level. Now, this building, I can't tell from the elevations myself, but it's basically the same height as Pavilion, and Pavillion's up higher behind it. So this building is now blocking the views of the Pavilion. And I would respectfully disagree with the characterization that the setback on the 4th story makes any difference whatsoever here. If you're looking at this building from Broadway, I don't, I guess I understand the concept of trying to present it that way, that the top is set back, the top story is set back a little bit. So does it look different and it doesn't look like a wall? Yes, 100%. It doesn't look like a big wall. Okay, but it's still a 4th story. And on top of the 4th story is the elevators and the mechanicals and everything else. And it's just not what Nyack is about. There's not, particularly that corridor, as Trustee Carlin pointed out, that particular corridor has nothing like this at all.
All right.
So
Thank you, David. And well argued, as I would expect from we went to law school together.
We
so
did.
It's, you're a much more successful lawyer than I ever was. So,
you may be a more successful businessman than I. Anyway,
Yeah, I get
thank
that
you
a
for
lot.
all your time. You get my point.
I appreciate that, Dave.
Good
Thank
to
you,
see
Keith, for coming down.
Okay.
All right, I'll let me just I'll take some public comment, but I want to just give you anything specific about what he addressed that you want to address in a couple of minutes, because we got to move this along. I'm sorry, what?
All right, so I take offense to it being called a monstrosity. That presentation was full of drama and unnecessary. So if it was a 3-story building, the 3-story building would be all the way to the street and would be, his building, the funeral home would be right up against that 3-story building. You wouldn't even see the funeral home until you passed the development, the new building. So I don't see it, this project set back the way it is, doesn't benefit any other building more than the funeral home. So the 4-story is, at the end of the day, you barely will recognize, you barely will see it. It's only being shown in these renderings, and that rendering that he gave you is an older building, because we don't have one from that view for the latest version of the building. So it doesn't have to be a 4-story building, and I can go back and design a 3-story building.
All right, let me give a few minutes. If anybody will give a minute for anybody who wants to come up for public comment, just recognize that if you're taking your public comment opportunity, there's not multiple public comment opportunities. There's the one public comment opportunity. But does anybody want to jump up? No. All right, so if anybody changed their mind, just raise your hand to come up to the podium. All right.
One last.
Yeah,
thing.
sure, Dave.
In our letter, we had asked that, I don't know if you were planning on making a decision tonight.
We're not making a decision. As I said, we're giving a sense there will be essentially what we'd be doing would be giving either a green light, yellow light, or red light as to what the board's sense is. But it's always something that if 3 months from now, 4 months from now, when it comes, there'll be a public hearing, the public would have a chance to weigh in. And then we would have an opportunity to vote when the building is finished.
Very good. I just wanted, in case you didn't see in the letter, we have an appraiser that we're gonna put in a report from an appraiser talking about the diminution in value caused by the fourth story.
Okay. All right, so I've given sort of my thoughts. Joe gave his thoughts. Does anybody else want to share? Which I think you don't have to, but I think it's a courtesy to Mr. Pillow if we give him some sense of where we are.
Well, does it look better than the current gas station and the convenience store? Yes, it does. However, I'm sort of on the fence about the 4-story. And what I'm seeing here is, it'd be great just to see the 3-story without the 4th story there to see what that would kind of look like. But also I'd like to hear what other people that is in that neighborhood, how they feel about what's going on as well.
Hear from
The people that are on Broadway, the other shops.
Yeah.
And people that are in the surrounding area. I'd just be curious to hear how they feel about
So
it.
you're not ready to give any kind of opinion until we actually had a full public hearing on
I
this?
would like to.
Which I think
yes.
which is a fair position to take.
Yes,
Okay.
and that's how I feel, because I have two minds about it.
Yeah, I'm sort of in the same boat. I think there have been compelling arguments on both sides. I will say I would actually like to see some more concessions. I recognize that, yes, bearing wires is really great, but I do feel like in terms of some of the public benefit, it's a little sparse. But there are good arguments for and against it. I'm just not ready to make that decision right now.
All right.
I don't think any of us are.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
I mean, you want to see, and you're saying that this is not what the latest model of the plan. So that we would like to see that without the 4th story.
You have that, you have the latest.
Yeah, we have.
Is that the package that we got?
Yes, in the
Package
package,
that we got,
it's
okay.
in the package, but it's
It's all
not,
of
there's no
this.
proportion to it.
Okay.
In terms of the buildings, you grade out the both sides, so you don't really see.
It's not, it's a
This is a
rendering.
pretty
It's a
typical.
rendering, but
way.
there's no scale, there's no size to, when you look at
Well,
the,
they're to scale, they're just not, we didn't have a bird's eye view at that exact vantage point to do the
Yeah.
overlay. We can certainly work on that to present at the next meeting if needed.
Okay. And Natalie, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just want to just make a mention, I guess to Joe's point and even to everyone,
which go.
sorry, you Joe, and to Keith. When Pavilion came up, when the units up on Upper Main came up, there was a lot of backlash that we still see even today about how tall those buildings are. So I do want to be mindful of public opinion when this comes before us, because it is about the community aesthetic as well. I do like the design. Those are the concerns that I just have.
But you're comparing a building that's right up to the property line on the street compared to a building that is set back a major distance.
No,
So-
I
so
recognize all of that, but
Right, but-
I'm just saying that even still, I've seen
Okay,
the
that's
community
fair.
comment on some of it. No, I understand that. I've seen some of the community comment on it. I'd like to hear more, but that's where I'm like, I'm still a little bit on the fence about it. I do understand your points. I do think it is more beneficial to have this setback. And for all the reasons that you mentioned, but at the same time, I do want to be cognizant of the fact that I'm not sure how much public benefit I'm really seeing from it. I do want to be mindful of the funeral home and those who use our funeral home. It's been here for quite some time. It is an institution, so I do want to be mindful of that. So that's where I'm just sort of going back and
Are you
forth.
taking into account that you're removing a gas station on downtown Broadway?
Yeah, no, I have no
That
issue
is
with
by
that.
itself? You
I-
have no issue with,
With removing a gas station, no.
right, well, then he can just keep the gas station there.
Well,
I mean,
you're saying.
Yeah, I get that too.
Is there a possibility this would-
Still, so.
Sorry.
No, I'm just saying that, like, I understand where you're coming from. I'm just saying that this is not something I want to make a decision on this evening.
Here's, all right, so what you've got is you've got one yes, one no, three kind of maybes, which is not what you were hoping for.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Here's what, one thing I think would be helpful, and it's up to you whether you want to actually do this, would be if the next step is that, well, if three maybes, one yes, you're gonna go back to the developer and tell them that it is really not worth putting another $250,000 into it on the fact that you don't have enough momentum here. Your next step then would be to at least draft up what a 3-story building would look like. I think it might be helpful for the board to see what that 3-story building would look like. Not a version of it that you would make to convince us that it will be ugly and terrible, but like
No.
what you would actually,
We did that. already.
what you would actually design.
We did that version, we did a schematic version of it, and we presented it to the planning board.
Okay.
And based on that, they recommended the fourth floor
Alright.
version of it.
Now, I know you were hoping to get something coming out of today.
Recommended it.
Would-
Hold on.
Is he gonna make a
I'm
comment?
sorry, who just
I don't know.
spoke? I didn't hear. That was, okay. May I suggest this? I'd like to see what that looked like, because the planning board has now sent this to us. They didn't send the other one to us, but now they're saying, send this to us, and we're looking at it in a vacuum. It's my opinion that I think the building, I don't have as much of an issue with the building as some of my colleagues do, but it might be useful to have an apples to apples comparison of what it will look like, because I really do think that if you had another, as wide as this building will be, you had another building right up against the sidewalk, a 3-story building up against the sidewalk is much more imposing than a 4-story building set back 35 feet,
Absolutely.
which would be my opinion, but it might be helpful to see that. Now, that's up to you. You could just walk,
No, I totally get it, but again, this was presented at the planning board where.
and they turned it down, but we didn't see it.
Yeah, I understand it, but they made a vote, they took a vote based on this to send it here. So we already went through that, and that board is appointed by you, so. Which is why-
I know, but we're the ones who have to prove the 4th floor.
I
And
know, but
so,
this is, again, it's your process, it's your law, it's your special permit that gives the ability to request a 4th floor. And that's what we're doing, we're exercising that. So to have this iteration that keeps on going is not in any.
I think I'm simply suggesting, and I don't know if I think it'd be useful to see what the 3-story building looks like to get a sense of what, I mean, it might be that we might look at it and say, oh, this is very nice and we have no problem with it. And that's something you might build as the alternative. Or we might look at it and say, oh, this is gonna be, and you've already actually done those diagrams and you've done those renderings, right? All right, so I mean, if you want to send those to us, we'll take a look at them and we can come back in 2 weeks and talk to you again, if you want to do that,
Okay.
up to you.
We'll see.
Is that a fair?
Yeah, I'm just saying that if they sent it in the package as well, then I could probably have had a better determination of
But
what I would.
that's not, the reason they didn't do that is that's
I
not
know,
the project
because-
that
I know,
got
I know.
approved.
But I
It's not the
also
project
just
they've been working on for the last year.
point out too that-
I just have a quick question with
Sure.
regards to having a public hearing. So this is the first that we've heard about that being part of the process, and obviously we're open to it. I'm just wondering, is that something that we can arrange to happen?
It's gotta happen after according to Dennis, it's gotta happen after the building, the planning board.
Once the planning board issues a negative declaration under SECR, for everyone here, negative is not a bad thing. When it comes to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, it means that the planning board may find, they may not issue a negative declaration. If they do, that means the planning board has found that there's no potential for significant adverse environmental impact. That's what a SECR or SEQRA neg deck means. No other board that has any voting power over any aspect of this project can vote until the planning board issues or adopts its negative declaration. So that's why the village board of trustees cannot formally vote on this special use permit tonight.
Yeah, I'm mostly just asking just in terms of, I know there was concern.
Yeah.
And there needs to be a public,
Addressing everyone here, so.
Yeah.
and the public, and we need a public hearing for the
Well, yeah,
special
it's,
permit.
a special use permit it does require a public hearing, by this board.
Right, but when this was put into.
But we won't
place-
schedule it until that neg deck is adopted, if it is.
Right,
adopted.
this process that is law in the village is, quite frankly, no one would utilize it. Nobody benefits from it. No developer benefits from this because of the process and because of the risk to the development. So
There's been plenty of projects that have gone through the process gotten special permits, and so,
Special permit for a fourth floor like
yeah,
this?
yeah.
This is our understanding, it was the first
No.
time.
What's that?
It was our understanding this is the first fourth story special permit that's been in front of the board. That was what we
There
were.
was the,
All right, I'm gonna just, let's knock it down. I hear you and I understand your frustration a little bit with the process. What I've suggested to you is right now you have the 1, and 3.
Yeah, I get it.
3 maybes, and I'm saying to you that maybe seeing the other alternative might shake things up, it might not, but it might be worth waiting 2 weeks to make a recommendation to your client. It's up to you, and you can get that to us, whenever you're ready to get it to us in the next 2 weeks, then we can get it into the packet for next time. So,
Okay.
all right, thank you, Don. Thank you, Dominic.
thank
And
you.
thank you very much. And thank you also for Mr. McCartney. All right. I did not, I inadvertently skipped, we're gonna do we have to do a public hearing on the community developed block grant, but I did want to give, for anybody who's here for public comment on any issue that is not part of the agenda for tonight, if you want to give a public comment on a non-issue, you can have that public comment time now. Otherwise, we have another session for general public comment at the end of the meeting, and we'll be allowing public comment on issues that come up during the course of the, as we discuss those issues. But I see nobody up, so let's go, Andy, let's do the community block grant application discussion. Let's try to move it quickly. What's good news? Well, it's an application. We don't have the money.
Right. Which one?
You never know.
Well, it's an application.
Oh, he's playing us.
Wait, do we have to motion to keep it, to reopen?
We opened
Keep
it.
open.
Well, there's no public hearing on the agenda. Other than this is an open public hearing from last time. I don't have to do anything to, it's been continued.
All right, so just to introduce this topic, annually, the village applies for community development block grant money. It's federal money. There's some uncertainty around that in years going forward for obvious reasons. Excuse me?
Thanks.
How's this?
Better.
It's a CDBG grant process. Each year, the village, makes an application to the county, which distributes the federal money. Usually $250,000 for sidewalks, paving, improvements of various sorts of public facilities within the specific census tracts which qualify based on poverty statistics. The village has a community committee, and this committee has reviewed and solicited proposals and concepts for ways to spend that money, what application to make. A couple of committee members here, Christine Carlin was there. I think Mr. Dunnigan was on that committee, although correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe a couple other people. And we thank them for their efforts with regard to this. My assistant, Anne Marie Tilsey, coordinates it. She's done a great job. We made this little PowerPoint to show some of the projects that was considered. I'm kind of cutting to the chase here. So the eligible areas are represented by those blue dots and the rectangles around them, basically in Broadway and Franklin, and between Midland going up the hill towards the western part of the village. We just added this past year. We have one project. We considered a number of projects. I'm not going to go through the summary of all of them because we have talked about this before a little bit. But there's two projects which we think are viable for applications. One of them is on Kilby, which is that little cut through street between Route 59 and Upper Depew. It has no sidewalk, and people do walk down to the various stores from Upper Depew. The village is doing a lot of sidewalk work on Upper Depew in the coming year as part of the Safe Routes to School project. So connecting sidewalks, existing sidewalks, filling in segments where there's no sidewalk is a good application to make. And so that's one of the projects that we have kind of for board consideration. And with whatever money was left over for sidewalk building, we'd use it for repaving the street, which is something that always needs to happen. So filling in that gap is one project we thought would be a good application to make. We looked at some other things, some public bathroom stuff and whatnot that our CDBG sort of overlords said probably weren't viable. But the other one was this idea of using the money on the village lot or Artipe lot, which is the big municipal parking lot off of Main Street in Cedar. And not only is the pavement kind of in bad shape, but there's ideas about improving the landscaping, maybe realigning the parking for easier and safer getting in and getting out. And if there's substantial money, and we don't know how far that money would go, taking a look at Heatherside Easter Park for some improvements, perhaps with some extra plantings or some raised beds of various sorts, kind of looking at the design of that park. So that project is also pretty much a right down the middle, good application strategy to apply for. So I just want to give this village board our guidance from the committee and from myself and Anne Marie that those two projects are the most viable of the ones discussed. They're both valuable, they're both valid. We just need your guidance as to which application to make.
Thoughts? Kirby or Artipe?
That's hard.
Okay, we could always apply for one this year and go for the other one the next year if the program is still funded.
I think.
If the government's still funded, if the government is still functioning, any year from now.
But the RFP lot paving would be considered one of the eligible requirements
Red paving with improvements to the landscaping.
as
Yes.
far as when you say improvements.
An angle,
For example, Artipe lot has some planting beds with trees in them. But you could do more with that and create more shade for that parking area, basically beautify it along with pavement and restriping.
it's also putting in angle parking spots to make it easier for ingress and egress from there and one-way signage. So right now, the problem with the Artipe lot is it's straight in parking. There's not that much room to maneuver and people have problems getting into those parking
And
spaces.
I understand all that. I just thought the requirements were a little bit different for the CDBG money.
Mostly we've got money for sidewalks in the last several years.
Right, improvements, whereas it would benefit the whole community. I mean, I just wouldn't have thought that paving and parking and restructuring would have been, I mean, you may want to just check that to make sure you can use that CDBG money for that.
I will double check that because you definitely speak from experience as well. Our
That's the
sense
only
is
reason
that
I say that, because I know one time we wanted to do something and they kind of shot us down. You may want to check
I
that.
think you're right, straight up paving projects are not gonna look too kind of, but if it has.
And you know what, if it's, you know, if it's continued that you're, you know, mixed chances of getting it. That's all I'm saying.
Right. So part of the theory of that case is with the re-engineering of the striping to become more pedestrian safe.
I would suggest.
So we gotta vote for Kilby.
So we're gonna go with the sidewalk.
I prefer Herbie only
Herbie.
because we have a lot of people walking over there,
Right.
Taco Boys is over there. Like,
Kilby.
we're about to do the mural
Kilby.
project over there.
Kilby, not
Kilby,
Kirby,
Kilby.
Kilby.
Sorry.
I said Kirby and that's what screwed it up. That was on that.
I would prefer
Fun.
Herbie, honestly, cause we do need the repaving of RP, but a lot more people have been walking in that area, so I think that's a little bit a better use to keep those folks safe.
I think
And
that's-
then cars do speed up and down that road, especially late at night.
I'm okay with that. I'm good with that. I think that's I think that there's a lot more retail, like consumer retail on that end of
Yeah.
59 than there used to be. And so there is a reason why people who live up in that part of the community might want to walk down.
Yeah.
We do need to improve all those sidewalks along 59, but that'll be a bigger project someday. All right, so you good? You got your recommendation? Are we good with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for the work that you did on this and the committee did on this.
Do we need to close the public hearing?
Very much
Sure, if
good.
you want to invite public comment.
Would anybody like to make public comment on this? All right, they're all waiting. They all have something to talk about. Was somebody jumping in?
Did you?
A little bit, on 59.
Use my
School of America.
Give us your name, and tell us where you live.
Chris Shalaba. I live up by Village Gate area. And there's the Children of America
Yeah,
to the hospital. And there's no sidewalks there.
There's no sidewalk.
Yeah. That's
That's NW.
Yeah, there's a missing sidewalk. section.
missing sidewalk, and I'm seeing like high school kids. So much traffic there, and I think it's just like, I think it's a matter of like, something bad needs to happen before, like, we use.
Hopefully not.
Is that our, do we get to do that, or is that the?
Yeah, it's DOT.
Yeah, that's not us.
The gentleman's absolutely right. There's a missing segment of sidewalk. We can't use CDBG money on a state road.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's a great project concept for the future, for sure.
Something we should put in the hopper for talking to one of our representatives about, to maybe get some state money to work on the state road
Right.
to improve some sidewalk issues all right, so we've got a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the CBGB public hearing is over. We've made our recommendation, go and get that money. All right, can I get adoption of the minutes for March 13th, 2025?
Second.
Second.
Any comments or questions on the minutes? I didn't see anything. I read through them. I think who can vote on this? Who was at the meeting?
Joe Carlin and.
It's just the
Joe
three of
Rand.
us. All
Yeah.
right, so all in favor of adopting the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. The action items, and we'll try to get through these relatively quickly. 7.1, resolution 25-33, accepting the audited voucher summary. Can I get on the table?
Second.
Any comments or questions?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. 7.2, resolution 25-34, a resolution to adopt the revised green energy procurement policy. We talked about this last time. Can I get on the table?
Motion.
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. 7.3, resolution 25-35 to adopt the revised complete streets policy. Can I get on the table?
Motion.
Second.
Annie, just give us a reminder, 30 seconds.
The village has a policy that sets goals for making our streets as pedestrian, safe and accessible as possible. It's called the Complete Streets Policy. It's outdated, and the attached policy updates it with kind of best practices in the areas of traffic calming and sidewalk construction.
All right. Any other comments or questions?
I have a comment.
Sure.
Okay, so, one thing that we need to do is, there is in the village code for cyclists, they need to, ride single file. And in Piermont, they actually have signage that says you must ride single file. So I would suggest that as part of this program, that we put up signs on Main Street, on Broadway, warning cyclists or telling cyclists you must ride, in the village code, you must ride single file. That's all.
You're looking for signage to that effect.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I had to get distracted.
signage, single file only catch
Single
signs. They have it in
file.
Piermont, they have it in Grandview.
I can get you an example of it if you want.
Does our code impose a fine?
I think it does. Dennis?
Well, he's not
Sorry,
gonna,
that's-
that's too esoteric. If not, we should probably look at putting a fine. We actually have to revisit the fines. We were gonna revisit some of the fines for dog poop and stuff like that. So we gotta make sure we get that on the agenda.
As long as there's because I'm like, I don't see the point in having it if there's no real incentive, like a fine.
No, we can still tell people as a courtesy to ride single file, just the fact that there's a fine, they wouldn't necessarily do that anyway, they're not checking out our village code. But we should probably have a fine there anyway.
It is in the village code, so.
Yeah, no. I wasn't sure if there was.
The enforcement tough is tough. It's a tough to enforce in Piermont also. I mean, if you've driven down River Road to get to Piermont on a Saturday or Sunday, you're gonna take you some time.
Kind of have to drive and set the file River Road anyway, given how small it is.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. I'm gonna actually take the moment, since we're talking about signage, to thank the DPW. Came up a couple of weeks ago that people didn't realize that there was an in at the Fresh Market lot, that there was an in entrance and there was an exit. And there was chaos. There used to be arrows that said that you come in this way and you go out that way, you go in on the side by the Fresh Market, you go out the other side. But the arrows that were on the pavement had faded. Most people still did it that way out of ancestral kind of memory, but a lot of people didn't know that, and it was just chaos coming in and out. Someone suggested that, and we got new signs up, say it's wrong way. We'll get the arrows put back once it's easier to paint. It's not been a good time to paint on the sidewalk, on the pavement. but they do have the wrong way, right way
Good.
type signs up. And it should be good. And I literally, every time I go there, there's somebody coming in the wrong way or coming out the wrong way. So thanks.
You mean
I trust you, you know which way you're supposed to go there. All right, so thanks to DBW for that. 7.4, resolution 25-36 to approve an event in Memorial Park. This would be a wedding event at Gazebo on Sunday, June 1, 2025. Can I get on the table?
So moved.
Any comments or questions? Congratulations to the happy couple. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. 7.5, resolution 25-37 to approve the closure of Veterans Square parking lot for a special event for the big plug-in. And can we check that date, Saturday, May 10th? We just had the flower people come. They second and fourth Saturdays, so that would be one of their Saturdays. So we'd have the electric vehicle thing going on while we had the flower market going on. We should figure that out.
Let's look at the rain dates.
Yeah, but that's in
Oh,
that's in the parking lot behind,
it's in the parking lot, but yeah, I guess maybe you can do both at the same time. It's in the parking lot. It's not actually in the square. But I was expecting such a big crowd that they would funnel into
Yeah,
the
we'll take a
square.
look at that.
It just makes sure that we're not getting any conflict with that. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I got on the table, right? It's on the table?
My table.
Any other comments or questions?
No.
Any public comment? All in favor?
aye,
Motion carries unanimously. 7.6, a resolution of the village board to oppose New York Assembly Bill S 3397A, Faith-Based Affordable Housing Act. Can I get this on the
So
table?
moved. Second.
This is something that we don't do very often. We don't take symbolic votes. I don't think of this as a symbolic vote because this is a statement of the village against the Faith-Based Affordable Housing Act. And a message that we're sending to our legislators about the issue. So it's not, we've had issues before, people come to us and they want us to take a symbolic stand of foreign policy or something like that. This is not that. This is us actually saying to our senator, saying to our assembly person, that we, as a village, we don't think this Faith-Based Affordable Housing Act is a good idea. Comments or questions?
I guess I want to put a point of clarification. I know there's been a lot of discussion about this bill. It has not left committee yet. And when I say yet, I mean, there's a lot of opposition, which would keep it in committee. So I do want to just be mindful of folks in terms of the minutia of the bills. This has not come up yet for
Okay.
this year.
Can you speak on what it is?
So the bill, basically what it does is it allows, it allows all of our churches, any faith-based institution, if they have a large or a plot of land that's big enough to put housing on it, it allows them to not only bypass local planning and zoning boards, but it allows them also to go up an additional 20 to 30 feet in order for them to put denser housing in places. I definitely understand the concerns. It does override a lot of local zoning rules. And so there is a lot of opposition to this bill. There are a lot of members who have not signed on to this bill for that same reason, because they're hearing from their constituents. The bill is currently in the housing committee. It has not left the housing committee. So just to let people know where things are, it's not been put into the budget this year for the state. It probably wouldn't have, it's in Article 7, so it's not really, it's a policy change more than anything. And the state has not finished the state budget yet, so this has not come up at all in terms of a push to move it or not. So the resolution is fine, but
You don't want people to be alarmed.
yeah, I don't want people to be alarmed. I want people to recognize that there's plenty of time for your advocacy. And if there is a concern, if you go onto the state assembly website, look up those in the housing committee, you can call the members and actually speak to them directly and let them know that you're opposed to this. Not just the legislators you have, you should call them, but also the members in these committees who will ultimately vote to move them out of those places. That's just my recommendation.
Jeff,
so in line with what Pascal stated, I think it's good that our representatives in the Assembly and the Senate know how the village of Nyack feels.
Yeah.
So they will advocate against it when the opportunity or the time comes up.
And I will.
So I'm for it.
Yeah, no, and I will say just to that effect too, it's when you look at the co-sponsors, I don't believe you'll see any of our current elected representative as co-sponsors, which is a big indicator that they maybe are not looking to go anywhere near this bill yet. So I agree with the resolution. I just don't want to alarm folks in terms of where things are, but I do recommend you call the offices of the members who are on these committees to let them know your opposition as well.
And let me state for the,
Because, people that aren't looking online and looking for these things would not know about it.
Yeah, no,
I would not have known about this. I wouldn't hear this.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, it really does.
So I
behoove
think
you to-
it's, it would behoove us to make sure that the general public here in the village, especially with, things the way that they are now in government, are aware of this, so that you can be on the lookout for these things.
We'll publicize it on social, we'll publicize it on social media, get everybody involved, and so.
if it comes to that.
If it comes to that.
Good, yeah, but I think, I always had a problem with us going into post things, because not everybody's.
Right.
So we have to be careful with that, but thank you.
I just want to make a point and say on the record, I'm in favor of the resolution. I'll vote for the resolution. I want to make clear that my opposition to the Faith-Based Affordable Housing Act has to do with the fact that it overrides local zoning. One of the reasons that
Exactly.
we incorporated as a village is to control local zoning of our area. And so we're inherently resistant to any statewide reform that would override our local prerogative to control our own zoning. And so but I want to make sure that it's very clear that people have right to live where they want to live. They have a right to live how they want to live. This is not about that. It's about our maintaining our integrity and authority over our own zoning code.
Right.
So that's why we're opposing it. Any other comments or questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 7.7, resolution to modify the regulations that prescribe, this is to set a public hearing on the regulations that prescribe the maximum height of fences, walls, and hedges at quarter lots. Can I get this on the table?
Motion.
Second,
All right, so we're not having a substantive discussion about this legislation today. We are setting a public hearing. The public hearing will be on Thursday, April 24th at 8:05 or roughly around 8:05 here in this building at our regularly scheduled meeting on April 24th. So that's a month from now, 2 meetings from now, where we will discuss it, and the legislation will be out for public review during that time. Any comments or questions? All right, all in favor?
aye,
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The public hearing is set for Thursday, April 24th. Resolution, item 7.8, resolution 25-40, to schedule a public hearing on the annual budget for Thursday, April 10th, 2025. Can I get this on the table?
Second.
We will have, under this resolution, we would have a public hearing on April 10th. That's why we're not having the hedge public hearing on April 10th, and we're having on April 24th, because on April 10th, we're going to talk about the budget. In the meantime, there will be budget documents out. They're out publicly. I'm going to probably do some commentary on it to explain what's going on with the budget, just to give you a preview of the budget.
and a lot of pie charts, don't forget.
And pie charts, I will have pie charts. Just to give you a preview, we have the draft budget that I've seen, stays within the tax cap. So the property taxes will not go up more than the property tax cap, which is roughly
2%.
2%.
Rate of inflation.
And we have right now a balanced budget. We have some adjustments to make for certain things, but the budget should be, I think, a fairly straightforward process, just letting everybody know. Any comments or questions? All right, can I get, all in favor?
Aye,
All opposed? The public hearing is set for Thursday, April 10th. 7.9, resolution 25-41, to set a public hearing to modify certain regulations regarding adult use. Is there something here that's wrong in the title to this? Anyway, for recreational cannabis, can we get this on the table?
Second.
All right, just look at the heading. It looks like some words missing or some wrong word there.
Well, I wrote retain instead of retail dispensary.
Okay, retail, that's what it is. I'm looking at it. What is that supposed to be?
Retain.
So for retail dispensaries, to explain what this is for everybody, because I know a lot of you are curious and interested about the cannabis issue, is that there is a state regulation right now that prohibits dispensaries from being within 2,000 feet of each other. And that is why I have been saying that when a cannabis dispensary opens in downtown Nyack, 2,000 square feet covers most of downtown Nyack, pretty much all of downtown Nyack. So once one opens, it would block out any other from opening because of the state regulation that says you can't have two dispensaries within 2,000 feet of each other. However, that regulation is not a law, it's not a statute, it is a regulation which could be lifted by the Cannabis Management Board at any time. And it was originally designed to be temporary for the purposes of controlling the distribution of dispensaries during the rollout of legalizing cannabis. So that rule could be changed. If it were to be changed, there would be no protection in Nyack against dispensaries opening in close proximity to each other. So we are going to be on, we don't have a date, for April 24th, a month from now, we're going to have a public hearing on the same day as the Hedges public hearing, where we're going to discuss putting a proximity regulation to keep dispensaries from being too close to one another. So if and when the state lifts its regulation, we'd have one that would already be in place that we wouldn't have to then rush to get one done. So that's what that law is about. My expectation is that most of the people here who have concerns about the cannabis in downtown Nyack would support having a local law that would have a proximity rule. The distance of the proximity rule is something that we will be discussing and debating over the next month before the public hearing comes up. All right, that's the basic explanation. Any comments or questions? All right, so can I get we have, it's on the table. Can I get a vote to set the public hearing? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So that public hearing is set for Thursday, April 24th. Mark your calendars, 8 o'clock. 7.7, we're not doing 7.7. That's being pushed off to next meeting. We're going to skip the department reports for now. We'll get to them later. 9.1 old business, just update on what's going on with the public murals. We have legislation now.
Yes, our village attorney has been working hard on it. We have a draft which reflects the sense of the board from our last discussion. I think it will be a discussion item for next meeting, at which time we might want to set a public hearing.
Okay.
For its formal consideration of that amendment to zoning code.
Okay, so that's about the public mural. So that will be a discussion. We're gonna have legislation in time for next meeting. We'll discuss it the next meeting. We'll set a public hearing for sometime in May to discuss that. All right. Let's skip over the bump out policy to talk about, we did put in as a new business item that there was a petition that was put out about restricting cannabis sales downtown. I think a number of people here are here to talk about it. I'm gonna let Ms. Pilla speak first, simply because it was her petition, so I know you want to introduce it. She will. All right, 5, you will. Why don't you then come, I'll let you make the presentation on your petition with your group. And we'll give, for this presentation, we'll give it 5 minutes for this, but we are gonna hold public comment. Well, there's 5 of them anyway. There's 5 of them. So we'll give you 5 minutes, but all public comment after that's going to be 1 minute maximum for people. Just we try to move things along. So go ahead.
Good evening. Let me begin by saying, no one here is calling for a ban.
Is that on? It's not here. It's not here.
Oh,
We'll give you your 5 seconds back at the end.
I'm a little chocolate.
Everything else is wired, right? That's the only non-wired one?
Give me a second. Bought a battery at the part of just this eventuality.
The battery died. The battery died right at the beginning.
See, the problem is that we have our air conditioning, heating system right above us, and it's like, you can't hear anything.
Thank you for turning it on. Yeah, getting a little.
Oh, I'm used to.
Ah, much better.
Like,
You can see we've reset the clock for you.
Appreciate that. Good evening. Let me begin by saying, no one here is calling for a ban on dispensaries or cannabis. That is simply not what this is about. Our petition is focused on one key issue, and that's location. We're advocating for responsible placement, not prohibition. This is about ensuring that cannabis dispensaries are situated in areas that prioritize the well-being of our community, particularly our kids. I want everyone here to be fully aware of that. I'm here today because I care deeply about this village, its future, and preserving the very essence of what makes it so special. On February 13th, I stood before you and I spoke about how I've always felt safe in Nyack until recently. In the past few years, something has changed. There's a different energy in town and it's impossible to ignore. And would further exacerbate these problems. At this meeting, we were basically dismissed. All I kept hearing afterwards in my head were your words, our hands are tied by the state. There's nothing we can do. But really, the message I received very loud and very clear was, it's not that we can't do anything different, it's that we don't want to. And it was incredibly disheartening. And perhaps you assumed it was just me and a handful of people, but I knew that it wasn't possible, that there were only a few people in the community who felt this way, which is why I wrote the petition. And now I'm not just Chaya Pilla standing here. I'm standing here representing over 800 plus people, including 25 plus business owners in the downtown district. These are people who put their names out there for everyone to see and are saying, this is not okay. This is not what we want for Nyack. Cannabis dispensary distance laws exist, amongst other things, to reduce youth exposure, but placing them in the heart of our downtown contradicts that purpose. This area isn't just a commercial hub. It's where our children and families walk, bike, and spend time together while going to local shops and restaurants. After school, our kids gather downtown to visit the library, engage in extracurricular activities, and attend after-school programs. On weekends, children and teens meet up for the recreational activities, whether it's heading to the park, grabbing a slice of pizza, or enjoying ice cream with their friends. Currently, there are no established local guidelines dictating where dispensaries can operate in the village of Nyack beyond the state's minimum distance requirements. But due to the unique nature of our village, these regulations alone do not fully protect our kids, especially when dispensaries are placed in areas where minors regularly congregate. And because there are no established guidelines, that is exactly why there is a dispensary moving right in between Turiellas and Temptations, and possibly another dispensary right across from Creative Arts Workshop, a location that may not be technically classified as a public youth facility, but in practice functions just like one. Every school day, a large group of children attend after-school programs there, many of whom are even transported directly from school to this site. I painstakingly combed through all the Village Board of Trustees meeting minutes from 2021 to 2025, reading memo after memo, determined to understand exactly how this all came to be. And frankly, I was stunned. At every turn, this was not just allowed, it was actively ushered in with enthusiasm. Instead of implementing reasonable safeguards, you did the opposite. Rather than tightening restrictions to protect the community, you repeatedly loosened them. Every decision along the way enforced this path, not with caution, but with open arms. And I also took it upon myself and spoke with the state. I've researched the state statute and how zoning applies to cannabis regulation. The New York State DOS provided very helpful guidance to me as follows. First, our village has the authority to adjust our zoning laws as long as we are not imposing a complete ban on cannabis.
And as long as we ensure there are designated areas where cannabis-related uses are permitted. Second, since the CC zone allows for such uses, our village remains fully compliant with state cannabis laws. Third, the state has not revoked our home rule authority, meaning we retain the right to make zoning decisions that best serve our community while staying within legal boundaries.
That's right.
The ability to make it so recreational dispensaries are not permitted in our downtown area. So when this medical dispensary wants to change into a recreational one, which they've already shared as their intent, it would not be possible for them to do so. The Village Board of Trustees expanded the zone from the CC zone into the DMU1 and DMU2 zones. You can retract it. Again, this is not about banning cannabis. We understand the law.
You're over your time, but I'll let you wrap it up.
I'm gonna finish. We are simply asking for thoughtful zoning. This is about protecting our children by ensuring dispensaries are placed responsibly. Another saying that that keeps replaying in my mind from our original meeting was this: well, where were you when these decisions were made? You weren't here. And that's true. I wasn't here. But just because a decision was made in the past does not mean it cannot or should not be reevaluated, especially when a large portion of the community is now speaking up. Many of us weren't aware of these zoning changes when they first were decided, but that doesn't mean we don't have the right to weigh in now that we understand the full impact. Local government should be responsive to its community. If new concerns arise, if circumstances change, or if a significant number of people feel that a past decision was misguided, it is the responsibility of the board to listen and reconsider. And the fact that 800 plus people have signed this petition, including 25 plus downtown business owners, proves that the concerns we're raising are real and widely shared. If the original decision was truly representative of what the entire community wanted, we would not be seeing this level of pushback. And I get it. I hear you loud and clear. I've read it through your records. I get that you want dispensaries downtown. But my question to you is, why does what you want matter more than what 800 plus residents, parents, workers, people who come to our village, and more than 25 plus downtown business owners want? Because we don't want dispensaries in our downtown. What we do want is for you to restore the original zoning to keep recreational dispensaries in the CC district and out of the DMU1 and DMU2, away from our children and out of the heart of our village.
All right, what people want to, other people want to speak, please.
Yes.
All right, we got it. I mean, you said,
We spent a lot of time on other projects and all these people have been waiting here all night to talk.
I'm not taking anybody, I'm not taking away anybody's right to speak. I'm just saying that you had said you were speaking for 5 people. Each of the 5 people want to speak.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, and you each have a minute now. Okay.
Well,
A minute?
Yes, a minute for public comment, which is our normal.
It's part of the presentation.
Yeah, the presentation already gone for 10 minutes.
We're only at these minutes.
Yeah.
This is on the agenda.
This is on the agenda. This is not an agenda item that we put on. As a courtesy, we've allowed you to present your petition.
Wait, so you're
But-
not listening to us then?
I'm listening to it. I just listened to 9 minutes of Chai talking about it.
Basically, you said that you're just putting this on as just an event?
I'm saying we put it on as a courtesy to you because you presented a petition, you want to come on. This is not an agenda item. We do not have an action item relating to changing the regulations on cannabis.
So how many people can talk?
We
As
appreciate.
many people as here can speak. You each have a minute.
Okay, what about the 40 people here?
Fair enough.
Talk
Fair
together.
enough.
And we talk together.
Fair enough.
Let's.
All
I
right,
don't get it.
Let's just have a second.
all right, guys, this is our meeting. We give a minute for public comment. You're all here as members of the public. There's no special dispensation. I gave you a special dispensation because you wrote the petition. I allowed you to make a speech. I allowed you to make a presentation. We allowed you to do that, which I was entirely happy to do that. But we're not gonna get 5 of those here tonight. That's just not what's gonna happen. If you want to submit stuff in writing to us, you can submit stuff in writing to us and we'll consider it.
I sent you guys the petition. I
Yeah.
sent you the email.
Yeah, and we invited you to come speak.
On the agenda.
Yeah, which you, yes,
And I'm telling
you just had your 10 minutes on the agenda.
There's more to than that. I spent my 20 minutes on like the building.
You decide what's gonna happen.
Well,
It's not
We
gonna-
decided what's gonna happen 3 years ago. All right, sir, you have to quiet down. Sir, you really have to quiet down. You're not up at the podium and open mic.
What's gonna happen? Already decide.
We decided 3 years ago, sir.
Thank you.
You're asking us to reconsider it.
Minutes can change that.
But that yelling's not.
But sir, if you keep yelling at us, I'm gonna have to get you removed, okay? To the OPD on notice.
You wanna smoke by?
Sir, if you keep interrupting the meeting, I'm gonna have you removed from the meeting. If you keep interrupting the meeting, I'm gonna have you removed.
If I'm correct, everyone's gonna get 1 minute.
Yes.
Yeah. everyone-
Anyone who wants to speak, it's a minute.
So everyone.
But
wants
that
to
yelling's
speak,
not
we'll
gonna
get a
help
chance.
anything.
For 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak and I would very much appreciate a little bit more than a minute because I've spent a lot of time
Why don't you
researching
get to it?
thinking about it, and I would appreciate your attention today. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm really grateful to everybody who is here today, whether you support the petition, oppose the petition, I have no position on it. I think it's great you're here, because we can discuss it and we can start making policy based on all of NIAC's diverse voices. I'm not gonna reiterate the facts, the changes that have been made. But having read the memos of the village, it is clear that the goal here is to make Nyack a destination for cannabis dispensaries. You may ask if I'm over exaggerating or overstating. I'm gonna read to you from the memo of the planning board to the village board dated May 7, 2022, which recommended the change in zoning law to expand the location of dispensaries to downtown. If more than 3 dispensaries are in Nyack, then Nyack would be the clear destination for dispensary patronization. We should be first and not wait for other areas to put in their dispensaries. If the dispensaries are overcome with competition in the future, they can close their businesses with no cost to the village. The overall point being that cannabis dispensaries will exist in Rockland County. Nyack should steer that boat, not follow in its wake. Destination is not my word. This is the policy of our local government. There was later a memo put together by the village planner that established plan on how the village can accommodate as many dispensaries as possible, suggesting shrinking the distance to as little as 200 feet between them. This memo that I quoted asks a very good question. Are there any negatives to cannabis dispensaries? The author said no in caps, and I was frankly perplexed by this categorical answer, given that the memo acknowledged the nascent state of the industry. So how did the planning board arrive at this categorical conclusion that there are no negatives to cannabis dispensaries in the heart of our downtown? What studies have been made? The planning board recommended the traffic and the parking study, not done. What experts have been consulted? As far as I can see.
I'm gonna give you 1 more minute to wrap up, okay?
I
If that's
appreciate
two, I'll
that.
give you 1 more minute.
So I'm gonna attract your attention, draw your attention, members of the board, to a study that was published in February of this year by a bunch of PhDs who know a lot more than all of us combined on this issue. And the article is published, The Adverse Public Health Effects of Non-Medical Cannabis Legislation in Canada and in the US. And these researchers and scientists conclude that the answer to this question, what are the negatives to public health, are unknown. Because all science, data, and research on everything surrounding cannabis is at its early stages of development. The science, as the industry itself, is nascent. So the conclusion that the planning board made and that you followed is premature at best. And what we're asking you to do today is take a step back and take a responsible and balanced approach to cannabis business in Nyack that takes into account not just the tax revenue, but also the very possible potential risk to the public health of this community.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
How much time would you like?
I'm not gonna have it.
I gave her 3 minutes. I'll give your 5 people 3 minutes each, but then we gotta go to a minute. All right? This is your third? The 5?
Yeah.
So I had more to say, but I'll just cut this down as fast as I can. So. I think we want.
Can you state your name?
Mike Hassan, 207 Hyman Avenue. I think we all want the same thing for this town. We want to see it a place where families can live, and we want a good business, a thriving business in the downtown. But I think we strongly disagree on this issue about dispensary locations. But one thing we can agree on is that we don't know the long-term outcome of what's going to happen if we take it in this direction. This is uncharted territory, and we are here with concerns because it's a risk. It's a risk that not everybody in this town is willing to take. If you want to know my concerns, and a lot of the people who are here today, it's exposure to minors. I passed around an article today to you. I mean, this is an article that was written in 2023 from Nyack Hospital, from the ER doctor, talking about the increase in adolescent visits to the ER for marijuana. And not just in this town, but throughout the Hudson Valley. I think that's a concern we should all be worried about, because the state has put a 500-foot rule that you can't put this in front of a school, and there's a reason why. Because there's a risk to children, and that is something we can all agree on. Mayor, in the last meeting I was at, you said yourself, if it was up to you, you would not want this in the Starbucks. And now you have the power to do that. You can roll back the ordinances in DMU 1 and DMU 2 to restrict it. We have Treehouse already on 59. Nobody has a problem with that. It's a great location. There's no foot traffic. There's no issue. And if we can have responsible dispensaries in the town like that, we'd all be for it. But this dispensary wants to be in that location because they want the foot traffic. And whether intentional or not, the foot traffic that they're gonna get is kids. I have a 12-year-old that rides his bike to Torriello's on the weekend with his friends. And I'm happy for that, because this is a town where a kid can do that. You put a dispensary there, he's not gonna go there. And what are my fears? My fears are the problems that we already have in this town. I'm scared about open drug dealing here, because that's an issue we deal with. I'm scared about aggressive panhandling and that location, because that's an issue we deal with. And to be straight and direct, dispensaries are a cash-intensive business that requires security guard. I am concerned about putting on the same street where we had a shooting a couple of weeks ago. I'm not gonna let my kid go there, nobody is. And so I'm asking and appealing, we all are, to the town to just proceed with caution. Yes, there's an incentive, there's taxes, but the taxes are a potential, not a guarantee. If Elena was allowed to speak more, she would have explained that more in detail. It's a potential, not a guarantee. But one thing that we do know, it is a risk. We are rushing for a potential tax benefit. But it's a gamble. But it's a gamble that we are not willing to take. Not so cavalier, because we have an invested interest in this town. And I know you do too. I would say one more thing. If we are intent on this issue of putting it in DMU 1 and DMU 2, open up a referendum where we can vote on it. If there's a referendum on this now, and we can vote on it, and the town chooses to go in that direction, you will not hear anything from me, and I'm sure everyone else can live with the result, because the town was full. But as it stands now, we are just asking you to not move so recklessly when we have so much at stake. Because if you cross this border, there's no coming back. Thank you for the time, and I appreciate it.
I'm just gonna make a point that you referenced that your colleague did not have enough time. No, you can sit. I'm just gonna say something. To get into everything she wants to get into. I'm just gonna say it to the 5 members of your project team and for anybody else as well. You do not have to come to a meeting for public comment to have a conversation with me or any of the board members. That one of the reasons that we have public comment here is for people to make public comment that they want to share with the public. But if you have something, if you have more information that you weren't able to get to, because we do have to control that, we can't have the meeting going till midnight. Feel free to come make an appointment, and I'll make sure I'm in my office that we can come talk about it. I'm always available to talk to constituents. I know the other people on the board are as well, that we'll talk. If you have other points you want to make about the tax revenue or anything like that, feel free to do that. But for now, we have to put a strict constriction on time.
I appreciate it. I just wanted to say, I think I forgot to introduce myself, just
Oh.
for the
For
record.
the record, go
For
ahead.
the record, my name is Yelena Graves, and I live here in the village of Nyack. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Who's the fourth member of your team? State your name, stranger.
Hi, how are you, Joe? I'm Christine Kidder. I live in South Nyack, lived in Nyack for 11 years. I will keep it short. I'm not going to use 3 minutes because a lot of people in this room, I want to give them a chance to speak. It's already 9:30. The fact that we have so many people from our village here at 9:30 on a Thursday, I think says something about the nature of this issue and how people feel about it. I agree with everything that has been said thus far. I think cannabis is legal, should be legal. The tree house location in our town is an asset and that people can go and purchase cannabis. And the tax money, I'm assuming, can be a great revenue and boon to this town. And I hope that that's reinvested into our kids. I'm just speaking as a mother, and the fact that this town, I feel like over the last couple of years has become predictably unpredictable. And I have 3 kids. They're the same age as many of the kids around here. I am a very free range parent. I moved to this town and chose my houses so that they could go to the park and go visit towns. But over the last couple of years, that the vibe of the town has changed. My oldest daughter at one point 6 months ago was rescued by the owner of Big Red Books because a fight broke out in the street in the middle of a Sunday, and she and her friend had no idea what to do, and he had to come out and kind of pull people in. And so that is the environment that we're currently in. I would love to talk more about how to get out of that, and I just don't see how placing more opportunities to purchase drugs is helping the issue. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Hi, you know me, Dominic Phillip. So, yes, I echo everything that has been said, obviously. A couple of weeks, more than a couple of weeks ago, I gave you a list of suggestions on how to modify local, or create a local law. And my basic suggestion was to carve up the DMU1, and, but, you know, as this discussion has gone on, I now feel that DMU1 and DMU2 should be retracted. And really, it comes about from just the observations of the town, right? This town cannot manage the illegal smoke shop selling weed. You can't manage the drug dealing on Main Street, which was never here. I've been here for 25 years. You had drug dealing on other streets, and it always somehow stayed away from Main Street and Broadway. But now it's directly on Main Street and Broadway. You've had 3 shootings in a year. And this, again, this government cannot manage that. And you've said that. You said it in so many words that you can't manage loitering. But yet, loitering is a condition on the medical dispensary. It's written in there. As part of the planning board, it's written in no loitering. You're writing in things that you can't enforce. And you said you can't enforce it. So basically, I have no trust or faith in the ability of this government to manage itself with dispensaries. And I'm being honest with it, that's the sense, that's what I get, and that's what I see. I complain a lot, I have a lot of issues with zoning and the laws that we have here, but this is everywhere. It's up and down Main Street. And the foot traffic that you see in Main Street and Broadway, it is not like it used to be. It is predominantly after school foot traffic. That is what you see now. And you may see some people come in and they go to restaurants, but you don't see people walking around for lunch anymore. You don't see, I'm in town and I go to lunch every day at a different restaurant in town. And I can tell you, it's a different place and for the wrong reasons. And we're doing nothing to change that. And the local government here cannot protect what's going on. Here, you have this drug dealing up and down the streets, and it can't be stopped, and the loitering can't be stopped. And there's no solution to it. So that's the problem. And if that wasn't here, a lot of these issues probably wouldn't be so bad. But you have that, unfortunately. So in that regard, in that context, roll it back. It doesn't need to be in DMU 1 or DMU 2. It's in the CC, and that's fine. And that's where it should have been. You had 4 meetings in total that approved it in the CC district and then expanded it to DMU 1 and DMU 2. In two meetings for the CC and then 2 following meetings that expanded it. That seems hardly any real research on the matter. So unfortunately, that's what we have now. And like you said, consequences, unintended consequences. You have one. And I'm asking this board, this elected board, to deal with it and rectify it and acknowledge it, that it's a problem. And getting us here was a rush, and it's not going to lead to anything beneficial for this town. You may not agree with me, but it's not going to blot out illegal drugs, and you're going to take business away from the cannabis place up the street. You bring it down here. It's not an unlimited supply. But one thing, you're not going to get rid of the drug dealing with legal dispensaries, if that's what you think is going to happen. It's not going to happen. The drug dealers will adapt, and they will remain.
All right, rest of the public comment will be 1 minute. Yeah, why don't we just do a thing where you raise your hand, huh? Oh, is there a list? Did we actually have a list? I thought we didn't give a list. We'll take it by the list. If you're not on the list, then you can go after the list. We go by a show of hands. So go ahead.
David McCourtney.
No, he spoke.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was here for the Daniel. Daniel Jean.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Jean-Gilles. I live on 3rd Avenue in London. Briefly, with regards to 80 South Broadway, if you want to do special permit hearings, grant the permit for the floor. Because everybody that's going to develop up the project in Nyack is going to come for that 4th floor after you approve this one. But for really being serious, Mr. Carlin, Trustee Carlin is on the right track. Special permit for something extra really equates to what public amenity is really of value in that, and that's moderate income housing. So if you're going to grant the special permit, you should get more than 2 units that are you should grant the special permit in terms of the 4th floor if there's additional units that are being added. So moderate income units that are being added. So that's really what you should be doing. If you're going to grant that 4th floor to whoever comes next to you, make sure that they give you more than the 1.8 or the 2 units that you're gonna that they should be going in. That's really what you're talking about in terms of what's valuable to the community. Very little of it is going to be walkway, a walkway along the river. There's not going to be that much development. Most of it's going to be inside. So what are you going to get for it? Public amenities, what are you going to get for it? It's really low income and moderate income housing that you're going to get for the special permit. So you should really keep that in mind. And I wouldn't give them enough for it. Secondly, in terms of your cannabis rules, state law is very clear in terms of distance. There are more places that sell tobacco, alcohol, which are far more dangerous than marijuana. So your zoning should not be any more restrictive than what it allows for alcohol and tobacco. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up.
Chris.
Chris Schwab, I live in Upper Nyack. Nyack, I've been here for 15 years. I have a 3-year-old, 5-year-old. And it's just not something that I want to see a dispensary going between an ice cream shop and a pizza parlor. That would be especially ridiculous. ridiculous to see that happen. Something I wouldn't want to see happen, and I think it would have a negative cultural impact on the town. And there's just a lot of kids and families like just walking around. The school's not far away. I mean, the spring's coming, weather's getting nicer, and it just wouldn't be good for the area.
Corey Foreman, 2 Gurney Avenue, South Nyack. I'm Kristen's husband.
Corey, get on the mic.
We have 3 children, as has been said, and there are reasons, as Mike said, that cannabis is not, dispensaries can't be within schools, 500 feet of schools. And if you look at this area, you have the rock shop, student education. You have creative arts workshop, student education. You have Big Red Books. They are now opening up some student educational programs. So student education, whether it's a school or not, is all over this town. How could we encourage that when we're in a town that's going to open up a dispensary in the middle of it? Where I can't, every 10 times I walk down Main Street with my children, maybe 2 or 3 times, I don't get haggled by a panhandler where the homeless problem doesn't reveal itself. No, I don't have sympathy for the homeless, but this is just going to attract more of that. It's gonna have more hanging out, more panhandling, and more of an unsafe place for our kids. And to compare it to alcohol and tobacco, it's different. And I'm all for legalizing cannabis. I love the treehouse. But you're talking about products that are sold in big, colorful packages, that attracts children. It makes children curious. And then you're gonna have kids hanging out at an ice cream shop, interested what's going on over there. Encountering more panhandling is just not a good idea. I don't understand for the life of me why we need it in a downtown area where we're trying to encourage kids to come and be educated.
That's it on the list.
Okay, yeah, please come
I
on.
gotta go back. Okay, my name is Alan. My name is Alan Eigenman. I own the Palazzo di Naya. My restaurant is next to a smoke shop. I don't understand how people go to that smoke shop, come back out and smoke marijuana. They're not supposed to sell marijuana. They're supposed to sell whatever they do, gummy bear, I have no idea what they do. I don't go there. Never been there. And let me tell you, it's a disgraceful what they do. Fight, they smoke. My restaurant is just next door. Who wants to sit down, eat French food, and smell the smoke of marijuana? Who wants to do that? And then see these people, homeless people, who go there every 2 minutes. I don't understand how they're homeless. Because they go there more than most of the customers. They go there every 5 minutes. Where do they get the money? They'll tell you where they get the money. They ask people, open the door, give me $5, give me $1, give me $1, give me $1. After $10, they go there and buy something. That's all we need. And now we have 2 places like this in town. Now we have a 3rd place. Like they say, everybody said. The place on 59, I will pay for to keep them there. It is fantastic. Keep them there. Your kids don't need to go walk around. There's no one kid who's gonna go there. And there's no one of my customers who's gonna go buy marijuana and come to it. A lot of people say, oh, they're gonna bring people in town. They don't. They don't bring people in town. They're gonna buy the marijuana and go home and get high in the sofa. They're not gonna get high in my restaurant. They have to pay for more money. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Just raise your hand, come on, please come on. Please come up.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, good evening. My name is Carmen Bowen, and I'm a resident of Nyack for 20 years. I have two teenagers, one of which works in
Mike, close to
Collins.
Yeah, closer.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
I shouldn't. Enough of this. But the real concern for me is the fact that my kids are constantly, as was mentioned, either Torriellos, they walk around, they meet their friends, they're teenagers. They don't want to be home necessarily, doing homework all the time. So my son works on weekends at Collins, and he has to walk there. He has to go behind and be in the alleyway. Now I have to worry about that. One of the things that I wanted to mention is that there are studies that show significantly increased crime rates based on the Denver experience. And there were studies that showed and looked at the crime rates immediately surrounding the areas of newly opened dispensaries. And the crime rate and measures of crime and disorder such as robbery, assault, auto theft, burglary, drug and alcohol offenses, and murder and public disorder increased in those areas. So that study does show that. And it was the Denver experience, right? We all know where this all started. But I don't have a problem with cannabis. It's not for me, but I don't have a problem with it. I have a problem with my kids being exposed to it at this age. When they get older, that's their decision. But for now, we shouldn't be allowing them to be exposed to it. I think we have the opportunity to extend the distance to 5,000 feet. That will take care of the whole downtown area from the treehouse and not allow that particular dispensary to go to recreational. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Nicholas. I live on Kuiper in Upper Nyack. I am a registered cannabis caregiver in the state of New York. And so I'm a big advocate of cannabis, but not in between an ice cream store and a pizza parlor. I've spoken to David Johnson at the middle school, and he can't be here tonight because he's a principal in our middle school. And he is very, very, very concerned. He is having such a problem in the school right now that he said he doesn't even want to. He doesn't even want to tell me how bad the problem is. And he said, please don't stop advocating for our children. People will sell to the minors. They will buy it and upsell it. Who are they kidding? I understand we weren't here a couple of years ago. But why does that really matter? Because we're here now. And we're also, all of us had children that were barely walking at the time. And we were just coming out of COVID. And we were teaching them how to read. What these kids have been through is unlike anything we have experienced, and we need to protect them. And as a layperson, I'm actually just really curious. So I don't know if in this format anyone can answer questions, but with 822 people signing in this tiny village, can anyone speak to that?
Yeah, well, just to clarify, it wasn't 822 people from that.
Yeah.
Hold on, let's just clarify, because people throw that around. Your survey, your petition got 822 people signed. On the survey itself, it shows that 40% of them came from outside the region. Okay, yes. On the page itself, it shows that 40%, 60% came from 10956, 10989, and 10960. Those three zip codes, those are New City. It's fine. All right, hold on. There's 480 people. That includes New City. It includes Valley Cottage, and includes the Knots. All right. Yeah, all right. You asked me a question. I tried to answer you. I'm done answering the question. Your time is done.
Thank you very
Next
much.
part, who's up?
5,000, you got 10% of your electorate.
You did not get 10% of the election. 60% of them come from outside the area. They came from outside New York.
This is not really up for discussion. If anyone else would like, ma'am, if anyone else,
You've had your
if
time.
anyone else would like to come up for public comment, please come up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it just means your votes. You only care about the votes, right?
No, I don't care about the votes, and I'm willing to hear from people from outside the area. But just hold on a second. The fact is, the survey itself, you can scroll down and see, it gives a big circle and it says that 40% of the people came from outside that circle. That circle is like the entire Hudson Valley region. Just so you know, that's your petition.
Well, the business owners, most of them don't live here, so they are on there.
I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying that, don't say it's 800 people from the village of Nile.
But it's 800, over 800.
It's 800 human beings from.
We don't need
I
to
get-
keep engaging in this debate. This gentleman's been up here to have his public comment. Please give him his minutes to speak.
First of
Thank
all,
you.
I mean, that whole comment about where those votes came from, perhaps those are people that actually come to Nyack to
I
enjoy it.
Agreed.
You might want to take that into
I
consideration.
do.
And I really would like you to have the courage to step back and reconsider what was done 3 years ago without the knowledge that I believe you're hearing tonight. Because it's going to take real courage to commit to changing this so it benefits the village. And worry about this more than whether there's 4 stories on a building in South Nyack where there's a gas station. Please, use some common sense.
My name is Rob Matthews. I live right on Main Street, right above the bookstore, right next to Olive. So I see everything that's happening day and night out there. That's probably worse than a lot of people realize, especially late at night. It's really weird. But from the bottom, from Piermont, from Broadway and Main, all the way up to where Freight Harbor is on 59, like a mile and a half. Drive about 10 minutes, and there's 6 smoke shops from there to that point. And I drive past all of them every day, and none of them are busy enough to warrant having more places like this. They don't really, we as the locals don't really need 6 places to go to buy things like that. And it's not helping what's going on outside of the street either. But it's definitely not getting any better. So, yeah.
Anybody hasn't spoken?
I just want to make a clarification, okay, if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
In terms of the smoke shops that was mentioned by Rob, except for Treehouse, none of them should be selling marijuana products.
But they do.
Just hold on a second. Let me finish. The members of the board and the mayor, we've actually approached the authorities. And this is your representatives in the county, the DA, the sheriff's department. We're trying to get them closed down. We as a village cannot do anything. But we understand, we're making the effort to get them closed down and not allow them to sell. I mean, they want to sell smoking paraphernalia, fine, but not.
Judge, you realize it's just not good enough what you're saying?
Tom, you've had a lot of time today.
I'm just making.
He's making a point.
I'm just making a point.
Your public comment time is done.
I hear it confidently.
Your public comment time is done. Guys, this is a meeting. We have to have order in the meeting. I just want to reiterate the point. The smoke shops should be gone away with. They are very different. If you have an impression of what a cannabis dispensary, a legal one is like from the smoke shops, it's a misimpression. The smoke shops are very different. If they are selling cannabis, I promise you they will be shut down, hopefully very soon. Okay, I'll let you go.
Hello, my name is Rafael Isabel, South Mill. I recently moved here about 2 years ago, but my wife grew up. And I have to say, I grew up in the city. You know, and then I moved to Spring Valley when I came up to RCC. And I have to say, it's kind of the same. You say that it's different, that this new thing is gonna make it better, but it's not really. We see this game of cat and mouse every day in River Space, right in front of the River Space parking lot. Where like the cops come by and the usual suspects disperse, right? And then they come back 10 minutes later, right? So we're not building a community that is actually servicing the people that want to be here. Like I worked hard to be here. I took sacrifices. I worked hard in my jobs. I did what I could to give my wife what she wanted, was just to live here again, right? And I feel like we're just gonna sacrifice all that for short-term gain. And then we're gonna be wondering 20 years down the line if it was even worth it. And then we're just gonna have to invent excuses as to why it's not.
I think it's on.
Yeah, just turned it on.
Hi, my name is Frank Iguano. I've lived in Nyack now in South Nyack for about 41 years. It's been dying for every one of those years that I've lived here. Yet we're still here. I guess the bottom line is I really have no issue with a legally regulated business that's well run and pays taxes, et cetera, like virtually any other business. I don't see the hysteria of people with fangs and et cetera dealing. I mean, and there is an issue of that going on. Why people think automatically that this place will add to that. Why the negative right off the bat, I don't understand, especially about a place that is so heavily regulated. You would think that it would be to their advantage to do things the right way. If they're going to stay in business, they want to stay in business, they want to run a legitimate business, let them do so. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm Susan Ryan. I'm Susan Ryan. I'm Susan Ryan, and I worked as a principal. And so I know in high school, and I know where kids get stuff and, you know, and what it does to kids. It's not good for their mental health. But I was just in Thailand, and Thailand legalized marijuana and gay marriage. And in Thailand, every other block was weed shops. And the reason it was weed shop is it was legal, but there's weed signs everywhere. I walked down and said, weed sign, weed sign, weed sign, weed sign. And so if you, because it looks like y'all's faces when you were talking that you've already decided that this shop is coming to Starbucks, can you at least make it presentable so there's not weed signs? Because what will happen is that there'll be 1,000 weed signs going all the way up and down. I mean, Treehouse, everyone's saying it's so nice because it doesn't look like a weed shop. And so because I can tell by y'all's faces that you don't want to deal with this, it's done. But can you please make it so it looks presentable if you're gonna put it in?
Just for your information, just as a point.
And you know me, I said no smoking in Nyack 10 years ago because someone asked me how do you beautify Nyack, I'm like, get rid of smoking. But I'm just gonna put that in.
I appreciate that. And actually, I don't necessarily disagree with you about banning smoking in the downtown completely. But just to go to your point about what the shops have to look like, they're under very strict standards and they can't show the inside of the store. They can't, the signs are very understated you won't see like big wide weed signs or anything like that. They don't look like the smoke shops. That's why Treehouse looks the way it does, because it's following the standards. I also want to make a point because you raised the issue of what are you going to do about this? I want to make it clear to people because this keeps getting lost. Whether we opted in or not 4 years ago, we opted in 4 years ago, 3 years ago, we allowed for cannabis dispensaries in the downtown. If we had opted out 4 years ago, Starbucks would still be opening as a medical dispensary. That would still happen. The same way that in Bardonia, Clarkstown opted out of cannabis and Clarkstown has a dispensary in Bardonia. We do not have authority to regulate medicinal cannabis dispensaries. Now, that dispensary is intending to convert, it may or may not intend to convert to a recreational dispensary. They would like to do that, but they have 4 medical dispensaries. They can only convert one. I don't know which one they're going to convert. They've said that they might convert this one. If they do that, they'd have to abide by our regulations, but we cannot prevent them from opening as a medicinal dispensary. All right?
That's not what we're asking. That's not what we're asking.
You're not asking us to stop them from opening as a medical dispensary.
To not allow recreation.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm just telling you that because you seem to say, you said something about stopping Starbucks. And I'm just telling you that we're not gonna be able to stop Starbucks. If indeed Starbucks opens, it's also gonna, that 2,000-foot rule that I mentioned is gonna block out any other dispensary, whether it's any other recreational dispensary from opening within 2,000 feet. I just wanted to clarify the medicinal. All right, I'm not taking public comment right now. I'm just saying that the medicinal marijuana dispensary is not something we can regulate. You had a lot of time to talk about what you want to talk about. All right, yeah, in the back.
Hello, my name is Mira Patanic, I live in Nyack. Actually, that's not true, Mr. Mayor. You cannot ban medicinal marijuana store opening in the place. You can't ban it. That is true. But you can change your zoning laws.
Yes.
To push it into CC district.
No.
You conflate the two.
Not against the medicinal, no.
No, that is not true. Call Office of Cannabis Management, and I did call them. We have regulations in here. They said, be on the zoning laws. If the zoning laws place, it's right here. If the zoning laws in Iowa instruct businesses to be regulated in the CC district, that will be the case. You change it to DMU 1 and DMU 2, and therefore they can open in Starbucks.
Okay.
That's the truth.
All right, let me see, let me bring up your piece of paper.
Please, here. That is it. And none of us for the record, and I'll tell you, I usually Treehouse makes you $400,000 based on the fourth quarter revenues that they made. It's going to make Village ton of money. You should invest it into kids. It's beautiful. Keep it there. CC district. Nobody here is talking against Treehouse. Nobody here is saying, don't put another one somewhere. Find a place. Figure it out. We have no problem with cannabis. We have problem with Starbucks location and the half-truths. Because A implies B and B implies C. A does not equal C. That's just nonsense. I'm a mathematician by trade. That just does not work.
Thank you. Any other public comment, please come on up. We have the 2 gentlemen and then the one with their hand up.
Good evening. My name is Brian Bader and I live in Upper Nyack, and I just want to say, I know I'm in Upper Nyack and I have my own downtown, but the people of Upper Nyack consider Nyack their town, right? We participate in everything in the town. We participate in the parades and the festivals, and we use all the facilities, and we love Nyack. We have a lot of pride in Nyack. That may be why there's a lot of people on the list that might not fit into Nyack, but are in Upper Nyack. We make no doubt about it. Nyack is our town. And I share a lot of the same concerns that a lot of these parents do. And a lot of people in Upper Nyack share a lot of the same concerns. And for that reason, I just wanted to say that I agree with a lot of this. I'm not for weed dispensaries in downtown Nyack. I just want to say that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The gentleman in the glasses, David.
All right. 60% of the 800 signers are from Nyack Valley Cottage of the New York City zip codes. Is this really a significant number of people who actually live in the village and pay taxes and vote? Cannabis culture equating to criminal culture seems to be a concern. I've been a cannabis activist for most of my adult life. I'm proud to say the fight has resulted in legalization of something that shouldn't have been prohibited in the first place in New York. Retail cannabis on Main Street isn't any different than alcohol, nicotine, or caffeine being made available there. As a recreational cannabis user, I'm a little disappointed to be lumped in a group that still encounters cultural stigma despite all the progress that has been made. I have no financial interest in the new dispensary or any for-profit cannabis venture. I fought hard to get the opt-in passed, along with many other villagers, and they still charge me full price at Treehouse. Maybe I should take issue with that. I fail to understand how recreational dispensaries differ from medical. I've personally visited many retail dispensaries on 2 different continents and did not observe the phenomenon of recreational smokers crowding the streets and producing invasive clouds of smoke or endangering children. There's absolutely also no evidence to back up the claims that a dispensary of any kind will exacerbate pre-existing issues in the village like panhandling or anything else. Blacked out or obscured windows also are voiced as a concern, and they are the purview of the ARB. They do a terrific job with the village businesses and residents and make them adhere to standards we all agree upon. The new dispensary will be no different. I encourage everyone to participate in that process. Maybe we can also get the RCC to take down their Yuletide decorations now that April's also. The impact of a dispensary of any kind will have on our youth also seems to be a concern. To say that is, to that I say exactly how. Despite all the robust debate I participated in recently, nobody seems to have any hard facts to point at me, convincing me of that situation. Let's talk about hard facts. The village board hasn't pulled a fast one. All of the cannabis legislation that has been made in open public meetings with ample time for the public to discuss, debate, and indeed object. I invite those who disagree with the new dispensary opening to make an effort to continue to participate in village government rigorously henceforth and head off any impact that the new business may or may not have. The time to object is over. The time to be neighborly and act in the spirit of community is now. I would imagine the operators of the new business
We've given you 2 minutes, so I need to.
want the downtown area just as safe as everyone else. Perhaps we should work together to achieve this goal. Cannabis culture is not criminal culture.
Yes, the woman in the. Corinne. Oh, Fresh Market, Corinne, okay.
Yes, hi. Hello, hi, my name is Karina. I'm going to address everybody right now.
No, speak to us. And speak closer to the mic and loud.
Okay. My name is Karina. I'm from Nyack Fresh Market. First of all, thank you so much for everybody here. I am impartial. So I want to start off there. I want to be very impartial when it comes to this. There's no stance. There's only a couple of asks. The couple of asks is, I know that there is 2 sides to this about the criminal, like bringing in the wrong crowd, bringing criminal activity. It's going up and up and up and up. I really don't see how this could possibly help that situation. I think that it's encouraging. I think it's to everybody. It's to everybody's benefit, including short-term and long-term. What are the real effects of, again, not just cannabis, but the crime rates going on, and everything that affects the crime rates going up, I think should be addressed. For example, I think everybody's well aware of the drug dealing that happens behind our store that we have not received help. And we do want to solve or help the issue. And that happens every single day. There's no response. I don't see this getting better. And it's very concerning because I think that this is actually pushing the good families out, the people that have worked really, really hard to live in Nyack and feel safe and healthy and to raise their family there. I don't think this helps. I don't think this contributes. And it's really pushing everybody out. When everybody moves out, this is basic macroeconomics. Families will move out. Taxpayers will move out. Good people will move out. And then what is Nyack really left with? That's just a question to really sit with. What are the long-term effects when you guys make decisions? That's my only ask.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Yeah, come on, Cal.
Hey guys, and I do appreciate everything you guys do, giving up your time and always being fair-minded. And I just have one comment really, it's just that there are 2,700 kids in Nyack schools. And I just fell into this in the last 2, 3, 4 weeks. I was surprised how passionate people are. I don't even have to convince them. I just bring up, what's moving into Starbucks. They get very passionate about it. But anyway, Principal Johnson, he would like to informally speak with you individually if possible, you know, and just really share his experience. And, if that's possible, if you guys can, you know, make that happen somehow, I think that would be.
He's welcome to reach out anytime he wants, sure. Absolutely.
He's what?
He's welcome to reach out anytime he wants, absolutely. I'd be happy to.
I think if he feels that as a school official, he's not allowed to comment on politics, so. So.
He doesn't make a public comment, he's welcome to reach out to me about anything related to the school or the kids. Yeah.
And I think we should just listen, again, we're all community, you know, I don't even, we're just talking about proximity, there's lots of great places, you know, that Good Flower, or Good Flower could, you know, use a place that has a parking lot, you know? There's probably a lot of great places it could be also, just not in the downtown. Thank you.
Any other public comment? All right, since we're on this subject, I will just remind everybody, we do have a public hearing on April 24th, where we are going to talk about putting in a proximity requirement within the village. To replace, if needed, the one that's currently put out by the state. But I will let, since we allowed a lot of public comment, if anybody from the board wants to address this issue before we move on to other issues. I will just say, I appreciate everybody coming out. I appreciate the passion with which you brought this issue. I happen to be friends, and I know that this may seem, since we're cantankerous with each other, but I happen to be friends with the Poes, and I respect and like them very much personally. And we're on different sides of this, but we can disagree collegially about it. I hear what you're saying. I definitely I think we are definitely going to put in some proximity restrictions in our April meeting. We will be talking about that in the weeks that come up to it. I voted 3 years ago. I don't know who was here in 2000. Well, you would have been. So you were here with me. That we voted back then for the extension of cannabis retail dispensaries within the DMU1, and later, because it didn't seem fair to have them DMU1 and not DMU2, we did it last year. Everybody voted for the extension to DMU2, which is just an extension of the retail district. And the reason we did it was because we believe that we don't believe in treating it differently from treating liquor stores or bars. People can disagree with me. Reasonable people can disagree with me about that. And we also felt that it's a business that sells a legal product that's very popular, and we should be in the business of having a downtown that has stores that sell popular legal products. I had someone referenced before that I've said before that I wish it had not gone into Starbucks. I wish it had not gone into Starbucks. And that's partly because Starbucks had a sort of an emotional connection to a lot of people because of its placement. And I wonder whether or not if they had opened up in the old Dungeons and Dragons space, whatever that was called, Dragon's Den and Hall, whether there would have been the same reaction. I do respect the people who are concerned about what this might do with the kids. I have a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old myself. I don't want them being exposed. I don't think this would expose them any more than the liquor store exposed them to liquor. And so it's something that that's my responsibility to manage that process with them. I do not feel, I feel as if we made the right decision 3 years ago. I, again, wish it was not going to Starbucks, but I'm not prepared to reopen that debate on whether to allow it in the downtown. Obviously, we're introducing legislation to restrict it that might be the only dispensary downtown, even if it stays medicinal, it might be the only dispensary downtown, or it might at least block out any of the dispensary within a very big, wide swath of downtown area. And that's something that we can discuss over the next month. I respect that people can disagree with me. I hope they respect that my right to disagree with them. And I do appreciate everybody coming out to talk about this. If anybody else has any other comment, we can have it. If not, we'll move on to other business. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to reset a couple of things. First of all, on this petition, what kind of irked me when it was written as a headline, the village board wants as many dispensaries as possible. That is absolutely false, okay? I am very sympathetic to your cause. I was not on the village board at the time that the opt-in was done. But that's the law. I mean, we have to honor that and we cannot opt out. The fact that there are dispensaries or there are dispensaries DMU one, I can, I have a question about that, but that was done by the village board at the time I'm talking. And what we're trying to do, and also Starbucks had been closed for a year before nobody even showed any interest in Starbucks, right? So what Joe was talking about is that we are going to formulate a backstop to the state regulations. So if the state regulations go away, we'll have our zoning that we will have exclusion zones for dispensaries within a specific radius of the Starbucks. So I think, we're trying, we understand, we completely understand, and I'm very sympathetic, very, very sympathetic. But I mean, we cannot tell Starbucks, the dispensary at Starbucks, that that's it, you can't go in. I mean, that would open us to such a legal quagmire and lawsuits. And that's something that we don't want, we don't want to burn our budgets on paying settlements. Okay, so just that your message has been heard, okay? Your message has been heard, and we will try to do what we can to come to not a perfect solution, but to try to accommodate as much as possible. That's it.
We're not asking you to deny the dispensary.
The medical marijuana dispensary.
For you to change the zone, recreational is not allowed.
I understand, but.
Because it wasn't original.
It
It was only in the city and then it was expanded. So we're just asking them to.
I'm just gonna make 2 points here. Is this on? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so just 2 things. Number one, my suggestion is to the board is if the owner of the Starbucks could actually come and address the community. Because there seems to be a lot of concern, and this is what, the 3rd or 4th time you guys have come to our meeting. I haven't really seen them. It would be nice to actually hear them address the community and address some of these concerns, if that's possible. Yeah.
Maybe at the public hearing.
Yeah, at the public hearing or, whatever. I just want to say that. And then I just want to point out, there's also an issue of equity here. You guys are asking to push this into CC. The CC abuts Central Nyack. Who lives in Central Nyack? Dominantly Black and brown people. And so you're also telling me, one of the things that I'm also hearing is that you want to keep it in a community of Black and brown people who are disproportionately affected by a lot of these things. I'm just saying that, just like you said, you hadn't heard, what you heard from us is that we didn't care. That's also what I'm hearing from you guys. So I'd like us to be mindful of that fact. Because I'm just ma'am, you've had a lot to say, and I just want to be mindful.
And then silence us.
I'm not trying to say, because I've been trying to get through my.
We didn't interrupt your conversation.
Plenty of comments to make. I'm just saying to you.
Public hearing, maybe they need to remind them.
Right, and I'm just saying to you to be mindful of that fact of what you're asking, okay?
But didn't you, when you wanted to opt in, it was only in the CC.
We have,
Which is why we expanded it for equity purposes.
yes, we expanded
We
the DMU
expanded
one and DMU
yes,
two, and we
because
did that
it's-
over 4 meetings in 2022.
Well, I mean, that is what equity stands for. isn't it?
That's.
Look, you may not
yeah,
like
but
that, I'm just trying to
that is
explain
the
to you
most
that there.
All right, all right.
No, you
Everybody,
can say
hold
that
on, when
that's
you were
concern.
speaking, we didn't interrupt you,
Yeah,
we really
you
did.
can say that
And
that's
this is the
concern all
trustee, this is the deputy mayor speaking, so I'm asking not to
I
interrupt her.
just wanted to point out to you that there is a community of people who is not in this room who this also affects. So maybe it would behoove some of you to also speak to those parents, to speak to the NAACP, to speak to the people in the plazas who this also affects. Because I also would like to hear from them too, just like I'm hearing from you. Just like I'm hearing from our friends in Upper Nyack and South Nyack and other areas. So I'm actually asking for the sake of equity to speak out and reach out to those parents as well. Because they may have the same opinion, and I'd be happy to entertain that. But I just want to make that clear that what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing is not what reflects all of Nyack. So I just want to be mindful of that.
But I ask you a question, so you're suggesting that there is an impact and you're concerned about the impact being disproportionate on one part of that versus the other?
Yes.
Good point.
Yes.
Okay, I really appreciate that clarification. If I may also, I think you raised a very important point about the petition and who signed it, and I actually had the same.
No, we can talk after. You want to stick around after the meeting? I'll happy to talk. Any questions and any comments?
This dialogue can be discussed at the public hearing, which we did set for, so I do want to
There is a
remind
public
of
hearing,
that.
and
It's also-
you're all welcome to come talk to me if you want to talk to me about this or any other issue. I've never turned down a request from a constituent who wants to discuss any public policy issue with me. I'm sure the other trustees feel the same way. But we have to move on at this point, unless you have anything else?
No.
You made your point, good. Anybody else want to weigh in? No? All right, so we have other issues to get into. We'll go back to the departmental reports. Let's just skip. The village attorney has one thing to report, which is what, Dennis?
$150 fine for cyclists not cycling one abreast is the phrase that's used.
One abreast, so we do have a call.
One abreast.
Given also the concerns, I have been asking
Yes.
Detective Parzolo to come actually was at one of these meetings. Can we please get that on the schedule?
He's had an issue with it.
Yeah, I know. There's also the concerns that they're bringing.
I'll take it 2 minutes to adjourn. We'll let people filter out.
Because there's other things other than people hanging out, it's just a problem. That's why I had police presence, a lot of that is.
No one cares about the restaurant bump out policy? Is that what I'm hearing?
It's gonna be a bigger issue.
Very good.
All right. Everybody, I ask you, we're still having a meeting, so I ask you to get to the hallway and close the doors. So we have some quiet in here. All right. Dennis just clarified for us that we do have a fine for people riding, not riding single
Oh,
file,
okay.
which is good. 150, that's pretty good.
It's good. All right. The only reason I asked is because I've seen the signs that you're talking about and they have how much the fine is. So it didn't make sense to me to put the sign up without the fine. That's why.
We'll put the fine up. All right, the OPD report, there's nothing specific to report, but we will extend an invitation for Detective Sergeant Palazzolo to come speak to us. We'd like to have him do that. The village attorney report, is there anything else?
You want more?
No, just if you have anything. Cut you off. I've let everybody speak today, so I don't want to cut you off. If you, Andy, if you have anything, I'm gonna ask you to be very brief.
Keep it quick.
Very.
I just wanted to remind you, somebody raised the question of the budget workshop schedule and wanted to revisit that. The board had discussed the meetings and we scheduled that.
Oh, it was me. I brought it up to you because our meeting on the, hold on,
There's something else going on.
there's,
Third.
I was just gonna schedule.
April 3rd, is a meeting at 6:30 to 7:30.
I've scheduled our Jen Hatling to be with us on that day to provide a detailed budget rundown. If you're planning on changing it anytime.
it's the April 3rd meeting. I'm trying to remember what the conflict was, but there was an event going on that I wanted to, I sent to Andy, and then he wrote back to me, and I'm trying to find the email that
Yeah. Very good. I'm trying not to get myself too crazy. I have slight headache.
Andy, do you have that email? Oh, all right, on June 3rd, there is the annual JCC Rockland International Jewish Film Festival is presenting a film called Ain't No Back to a Merry-Go-Round, which is a civil rights story. That's at 7 p.m. at the Regal Nanuet. It's followed by a panel discussion with Wilbur Aldridge, Bill Batson, Peter Geffen, Francis Pratt, Carl Washington, Barbara Williams. It feels like that's something that I think some of us would like to attend.
That's in June?
What day is it?
No,
It's
that's April 3rd.
It's April 3rd.
That's what just looking at.
No, there's another.
Ain't No Back to a Merry-Go-Round.
And where's it?
That's at the Regal Nanuet and over by the shops at Nanuet.
That is the JCC.
It's at 7:30 starts the show.
Jewish International Film.
It's the Jewish International Film Festival, and it's a story about civil rights that is very much about a story of how 5 Black students rode a segregated carousel in Glen Echo Park in Maryland, igniting one of the earliest organized interracial civil rights protests in U.S. history. So there's a showing of the film. It's probably not that long a film because there then is a panel discussion with Will Aldridge, Bill Batson, Francis Pratt's there, Carl Washington's there, Barbara Williams is there. I feel like that's something
You
that
just combined Bill and Wilbur's
I did. I
name.
called Bilber. It's Bilber.
Oh,
Aldson.
don't say that too loud. You
Aldridge,
know
son.
Wilbur's gonna come for you.
Well, Wilbur comes for me anytime he wants. So do we want to move the meeting up earlier in the day? Can we move it up earlier in the day?
What time are you thinking?
5:30?
I mean, I can't stay. Well, actually,
It's just a budget meeting, so I don't think you even need to be there.
I can't.
I will make it my business to be here as soon as possible.
You can't do it, you can't do it later.
I can't do it. This is why I can't.
You can't do June 3rd at all.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
Um,
I'm gonna tap you out of that.
Why not change it to Tuesday, the 8th?
All right, can we do Tuesday?
Can I
Which day
attend
is this?
virtually? And not to sound like a pest or a child or a brat, only because I may be up in Albany with the hope that we'll have a budget on time, so.
All right, why don't we, instead of trying to do this on the fly, why don't we circulate some emails and see whether or not we can move that meeting, and if we can move the meeting, it doesn't have to be
We
noticed, do we?
have 5 people here whose schedules matter. If we could just resolve the question.
Is it,
I mean, we have the meeting set, but you can't make it anyway, you're not. gonna
right,
make
is
it.
is my presence necessary?
Well, talking about the budget.
I mean,
Um,
in
can
the
we-
sense of quorum and those sort of things.
Can we do Tuesday the
There's
first?
no vote,
There's no-
it's a workshop.
Okay.
It's a
Okay.
budget.
So you're not absolutely necessary, and we're gonna do a lot of work
Right, because I
offline.
know we're gonna have another workshop and do work offline, so that's, I.
But let me just ask, could we do the meeting on Tuesday the first? Can anybody make that meeting if we did it at, say, 6 o'clock?
Tuesday?
They can.
That's
You'd be up and I'll be up.
why if there's,
All
I
right,
can attend
um,
on Zoom.
if we do it on the third, besides Pascal, who can't make it anytime on the third anyway, is
then-
5:30 okay for everybody?
So why don't we do it on the first if she can't be here either Tuesday
I mean, I
or
can't be here either day, so. don't
Yeah.
plan-
We can also do it earlier on the third if we want.
or we could do it on the first. She can't make it either of those.
That's what I'm
days.
saying, don't.
First or
don't-
third
don't-
is better.
yeah,
I have
don't
to estimate
hold
both.
those up for me.
Okay.
That's so why, I say the first if we're gonna do
It's
it.
fine, I'm
How's that
okay
work
with
for
that.
All right, I can move it to the first if we had to move it to the first, and we can do, what time would we want to do it on the first? That's like in 5 days. I'm
And what?
so
we're
excited to
gonna
come
be
back
here
here.
for Like an hour?
Yeah, it's like an hour. What time we want to do it? What time can you make it? Because you have to get back from work.
Yeah, I usually know the next one.
All right, you want to do it at 6? All right, Tuesday the first at 6 p.m.
Somebody stop me.
Yeah, we'll dial you in.
Yeah, stop.
Yeah, because it's not,
Cause I'll just be
we're not
sitting in
voting.
my hotel room, so I might as well listen in.
budget meeting
6 o'clock.
is 6 o'clock on the first, and then the one on the third is now canceled. Which those of us that want to go to the movie can go to the movie.
Okay.
All right, and we'll try to get you budget. We gotta get the budget. Jen was gonna make some changes based on what we talked about, Andy. And I never saw another version of it, so let's get.
Oh, yeah,
another version of
I'll
that.
get to meet.
Okay,
All right,
Oh, Jim.
all right, so that's that. Thank you for setting that up. All right, do we, anything else from the village administrator?
well, the board was going to discuss, touch a couple things. One is under communications, we have a request for a very romantic wedding proposal.
Another one?
25 people in the gazebo on April 19th.
This is a
in the
proposal.
Evening after the Easter egg hunt. So if the village board would just give me the latitude to allow that, it's slightly more people than, it requires a permit because of the.
By the way, the Easter egg hunt is the 19th, right?
Easter
what time it is?
Afternoon on 19th, this would be at 6 o'clock. I don't want to disclose too much because I think it might be a sort of a wedding surprise.
Yeah, you don't want to say who it is.
Yeah.
It's very romantic.
She can't say who it is. All right, that's
Who
fine.
would be to stand in the-
Is anyone in this room?
No,
Is that what we are?
so
It's just he wants to propose and he wants people to be around and they want to like blow up
Jack,
whatever. Oh,
anything you
okay.
wanna tell us, Jack?
Congratulations, sir. Well, he may not know that he's involved.
I wouldn't shoot.
The applicant, we've been assuming the applicant's a man, but.
If you have any.
I'd like your blessing on that.
That's fine.
Yes, it's.
What time is the Easter egg hunt? Just don't want to get into my
It
calendar.
runs, I don't think it's one.
I bought a new jacket for the Easter egg hunt.
That wasn't pink.
It's,
It's
I'm not
got
even gonna
egg-
be
eggs
there.
on it.
That's
Easter eggs.
Wait, is
Easter egg
Joe
hunt
Carter
is
gonna be our?
supposed to start at two.
What?
Are you gonna be in the
What's the
car?
time?
Are you gonna be
Supposed to
sitting
start
on
at
Easter
two
Bunny?
PM,
2 p.m.
Is that the thing?
2 to 5. There's also the keep on clean
My
up.
Santa.
I'm only gonna be the
But
same.
they-
Easter egg hunt, 2 p.m. on the 19th.
No?
Right,
No,
if you wanna crash the wedding proposal, that's gonna be at
I
6.
could be a consultant fish.
No, that's the festivities of the
I
Easter,
mean,
of the proposal. All right, let's get back into it.
Okay, I
Come on,
have
everybody, back online.
another item for you.
Yeah, what else?
And this is important and it's a short turnaround. This afternoon I emailed you all a.
Oh, yeah, the energy thing. Is everybody okay with the energy thing?
yeah.
He wants to bid on energy and he wants to do it. He has to do it by tomorrow morning or else we're gonna lose.
They're holding a
price.
good price
Take it.
for us, so like 10 o'clock. tomorrow.
We good?
I have no problem.
There you
Glad
go.
about it.
Right, thanks.
All approved.
That part.
Anything else?
You wanted to do something in executive session briefly.
We don't have to do that. We can do that next time.
You know, please.
And let's talk, when do we do the bump outs normally? When do we
Yeah, I
do?
feel like we need to talk about bump outs. I usually go in after the first street fair, which
Which
is
is the
April
13th.
13th. And so I need guidance on that. We are having requests for bump out permits.
1 second before we get to bump outs, because I had this message for you. The basketball tournament, I heard from Sonia saying that the application was sent in along with the insurance. She just wants to know if we're gonna have some dates before us for a resolution.
I think the village board already discussed and approved those dates
Yeah, okay.
a while ago.
Yeah, that's what
I
I
just wanna
thought.
let her know, because
She sent it to me too, but I thought that that was.
Yeah.
the only thing.
And I'm pretty sure she was actually here for it.
Oh, I think we might have done it that day. Okay, I'll just let her know. Thank you, Annie.
I think it's August 16th.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
August.
August 16th, 17th. Actually, no, she said the rain date
That's
is
the rain
August
date.
16th, 17th. The event is August 9th.
It's in 10,
Right.
yeah.
That's in my.
I think that's what better last night. I think we did, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't here, but I think.
Oh,
that's the last.
Anything else?
The 13th. Yeah.
All right, so the bump outs, here's the thing about the bump outs. Joe, you had some suggestions about changing the price for them.
Yeah, I sent her a memo, I just sent it to you and to Andy, I don't know if I CC'd the,
Yeah, you said you'd BCC the board.
I
On
did.
your March 6th memo.
I mean, I sort of don't like to, I think the price is not unreasonable, but we're asking, I don't know if I want to raise the price. We sort of, didn't we, when we said it, we calculated based on the lost revenue of that parking space over a period of time. Like a monthly, what our normal yield is for that parking space.
So we are in favor of doing it again this year?
Well, we have to decide that too, if you want to do it again.
Oh, okay, because
Now,
if you do it.
if we do
If we
it,
do it.
whether we raise the price, what was the other issue you had? It was not just raising. the
Yeah.
price.
There's an issue with the,
I'm not a huge fan.
having, out, on sidewalk dining. There's
They have to make sure they leave the tent,
it has to be at least 5 foot.
they have to,
Yeah.
we have to give them a little bit more incentive to stick by the, to allow for egress and ingress of people in wheelchairs and
And
whatnot.
also not to have any, if we do it, to cut down the number and not to have one opposite the other, like we had last year.
Yeah, well, that's the problem, is who do you give it to?
Yeah, I think the only example of that was between the breakfast burger and the Ukrainian restaurant on the other side of Main Street.
No.
Maybe burrito and OBI.
That's just to, well, let's talk about that next time too, because we
The
just.
burritos you just had,
Fried right now.
the big soul.
Yeah, and.
Yeah,
I guess we're unlikely to get a request from burrito since they're not open.
So that won't be an issue.
So then you got burger versus.
Because we're also thinking about not doing the bump outs on that block, because we might do weekend closures at night for that block, so we have to get more input from the businesses about that before we do that. All right, so let's just do that at the next meeting. We'll,
yeah.
we don't need to get the bump outs out until, May sometime. Doesn't have to be up now.
I just want to point out, I'm probably not in favor of bump outs this year. New York City ended their program, so I'm sort of like, maybe this is something that also needs to go in the rear view. But that's just my opinion.
They had like actual.
No, no, no,
Construction.
no, they have like
Buildings.
constructions, but I'm just thinking in the sense of like,
COVID era,
yeah, like some of this stuff is dying away. I know, I mean, look, I hate to like live and die by the public square of Facebook, but I know we do hear a lot about pump outs along with a lot of other things in terms of parking in the summertime. So I'm just thinking, you know, if we're gonna, you know, can we consider not doing it and how, and what do, like, literally, what do the businesses think about
I
not
think
doing it?
that's probably a great question. to
Yeah.
try to get their-
Yeah, I'd like to get their input on
So we
if
could
they even
schedule for
wanted
next
to.
we have a business council meeting before our next, our next meeting, so I'll bring it up with them, I'll put it out to them.
Yeah.
To get some input on it.
Yeah, if you want, we
I'm okay
could
with that.
make sure that the bump out applicants know about that meeting so they can show.
Do we have a lot of applicants already? That's interesting.
No, probably the same ones, the restaurants.
expecting-
A handful.
They're expecting to be able to apply, absolutely. The Broadway Bistro has talked to us about it, DPFB has talked to us about it.
I mean, I'm amenable to changes. I'm just thinking like, I don't know how I feel about continuing this program, given all the complaints we constantly hear about parking in general, but my opinion is willing to shift if you know, all of our
If we hear from them,
businesses are
that's really
like,
big.
absolutely not, we want it.
So that really helps. Jack, do you have any thoughts on this about your, what you hear from the businesses about the bump outs?
Well, off the record, even though I'm not all.
Actually, you're on the record.
You're like literally on TV.
I hear you. You're picking up what you're putting down.
Anyway, it's a mixed bag.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
It's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
There's pushback?
A mixed bag.
It's mixed bag, mixed bag.
Yeah. You know, some people. How much parking it takes up is one thing. You know. People. Nobody really says that they make a lot of money on it, but they're afraid not to have it.
Right,
okay.
So it's, and then the expense of it is extraordinary insurance. It's extraordinary. So how do you justify that? The other thing, too, the other, which has a lot, that has something to do with our cannabis neighbors. And is the economy at night? This is, you know, it's not good. It's not good. So what you're saying is that you're gonna gamble. It's not real, again, it's a business decision, but I call gambling because that's what I do every day. And that the weather's gonna be good enough for this to happen for that period of time to cover your costs. So you have your daily costs, which you're probably gonna lose during the week. And then in the evening, not the evening.
You're talking about what now? What are you talking about now?
On the weekends, you know, you can recover that. Hopefully, if the, as I say, the weather is still good. And if the economy comes down.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole nother
It doesn't say. So, you know, you have all these factors that are involved,
Yeah.
so it's very complex, and of course, as Pascal said, you know, New York City just, you know. it's-
They took out all the
Them all out.
the outdoor dining places that they had built. All right, thank you, Jack.
So it's like throwing darts.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like a lot of the time. All right, I think we've covered everything else other than Katie Erdman Summit Street closure request. She wants to close the street from noon to 8 on Saturday, 4/19 for a block party. Does anybody have a problem? Nope. Normal requirements, insurance, the.
Actually, we don't ask for insurance on block.
Yeah, we don't have for insurance?
But we set up barricades for them and
But you're.
they require to collect signatures from neighbors, so that everybody is showing.
Okay, so she's got to do that first.
Yeah, I've received the signatures.
Okay, you already got it. All right. Anybody have an objection to the? Are we invited?
I
No,
go every year.
Yes. Oh, you do?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not at all.
Not to sound like I don't know where I live, remind me where is Summer Street?
Summer Street is off of Q.
Between Depew and Cedar.
Like right back
Oh,
to-
okay, okay, now I see it, now I see it.
Two-thirds the way up to Pew.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, cause sometimes I'm like, I know where it is, but then you guys say the street names, and I'm like, Okay.
I know, so I get, there are some streets that I drive, I'm like, I didn't never.
I didn't know that was the name of
that
that street, yeah.
All right, are we all good? Anything else, Andy? I think we covered all of our massive agenda and got through our big lot of, Manny, thank you for sitting through all this.
I know,
stuff.
Mandy, what are you doing here? Nobody else at you today.
You're an easy night. Not so easy here. Easier there.
That's about the ball.
That's not the ball. All right, we're done. Eric, I will entertain a motion.
All in favor?
I say all in favor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion granted, the meeting is adjourned. Can I have a brownie?
Yes, and trust me, these aren't hot brownies, I swear. I left it at home. No, I
Yeah,
didn't.
this is in the spirit of the other meeting, we're like, yeah, just go on for 20 minutes. And what is the sound you want?
Oh,